I'm going to call to order the Effingham County Board of Commissioners meeting. This is December 3rd, 2019. It is 5:06 p.m. I want to ask everyone if they would please stand with us as we have the invitation given by Commissioner Roger Burdett. And then stand for the pledge of allegiance to our flag.
Heavenly Father, we're honored to come before you today and tonight. Lord, we pray for each and every one of us, Lord, to make sound decisions and that we glorify you in some way, Lord. I pray over all the people, all the families here, Lord. I pray you give them peace and comfort, and I pray you give them prosperity as well, Lord. And we just depend on you for so much. You've been so good to us, Father. Pray for a good night. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Congratulations.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First item is number 4 on the agenda after the pledge is consideration of the resolution to approve the agenda. If the commission will notice, we have 2 additional items, item number 15 and 16, which will be added to new business. And then also we're going to remove item number 9 from new business. So if the agenda looks good to you, if you make a motion to approve.
Make a motion to approve the said changes.
Motion of Mr. Gillette, second Mr. Cooper to approve the said changes. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed no. It carries. Next item number 5, consideration to approve the November 2019 regular commission meeting minutes. Are there any corrections or additions to those minutes? Have a motion to approve.
Make a motion to approve. Second.
Motion Mr. Loper, second Mr. Lewis to approve those minutes. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed no. It carries. And welcome everyone tonight. It's fun to be a part of this meeting. Let me share something real quickly. Although we tabled our item under our agenda for last week, so usually that goes to old business. We would have normally heard it at 5 o'clock. It was advertised at 6 o'clock, and we don't want anyone to miss out and not be here because they saw the 6 o'clock advertisement. So we're going to wait till 6 o'clock to hear that in case there's anybody else that needs to show up and be a part of that. So everybody sit through an hour worth of meeting before they'll be right to do, make sure we can be a part of this. With that, I'm just going to welcome the public and ask you to keep your comments to the agenda items if you could. If you keep them to 2 or 3 minutes, that allows everyone who has an item on the agenda they want to speak to be able to speak to it. Ask you as you're speaking to an item, try to be confident to speak additional information, something that hasn't been said. And if it helps, if you want to get there what someone else has said, that's fine. Say, I agree with this person or I disagree with this person, but I want to add these comments. That'll help us take notes and hear and respond appropriately as well. All the documents have been located in the clerk's office or on the commissioner's website. If you got a chance to review those documents for any item that you're hearing on, you're up to clear to engage and discuss the items at the appropriate times. With that, we'll move into our old business. And I believe we're going to do all these through the sketch plan. I think we should leave that until we come back. And we'll go straight to our new business. The first item of new business is tax releases. Consideration to approve to release taxes in the amount of $2,273 for Oak Grove Church of Christ located at 2000 Lexington Avenue, map number 263, Washington, and Amendment for the district.
Staff was approached by one of the members of the church regarding an error on taxes for this particular church. Ms. Linda McDaniel, our tax commissioner, is here to speak in more detail to this item.
Linda McDaniel, tax commissioner. I was contacted by a member from Oak Grove Church of Christ concerning taxes on their property. And the church they purchased the church from it was a Presbyterian church, and they purchased it, and it is now Oak Grove Church of Christ. And they were charged taxes, and they thought they had done what was proper to be tax exempt. And he came to me and asked me, could I remove it? Well, I don't have the authority to remove it, so I referred him to you, the commissioners. I talked to Stephanie, she asked me, did I have an issue with it? And I said, no, I did not, because it was exempt prior to, and it still should be exempt. So I don't have a problem with you, waiving the
I'll
fees.
just weigh in there, and if the commissioner wants to go ahead and make a motion and do what we're going to do, or want more discussion, but we understand it wasn't private property that was thought to be a church, where as a portion would have been taxable part of it. This was tax exempt as a church bought it. And somewhere in the transition, it was not really exempt. And so I would like to entertain a motion to go ahead and agree to release this tax on this property.
I'll make a motion to approve the releases as requested.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Kiefer, second by Mr. Deloach to approve the release as requested. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. And carries.
Thank you.
Very good.
Thank you.
Sure.
Yes, I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you real well I would have been up in place with Ms. McDaniel. Thank you.
It's a done deal.
Okay.
Say thank you.
Thank y'all.
Double the taxes.
Thank y'all for your consideration.
You're welcome. Number two, consideration to approve amendment number 3 to the roadside mowing service contract with McGrady Company LLC for the grade cycle of trimming to the mowing.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to request that we withdraw this amendment. Basically, we had approved an extension of this contract for the mowing at the last commissioners meeting. The trim work, string trimming around the signs, the culverts, the mailboxes, etc., was going to be an amendment to that contract. I've talked with both our Public Works Director and our warden about potentially for this first quarter, to have a inmate crew work on this to see how it goes. And then if we're successful on that, we can continue doing it. If not, we can readdress this after the first quarter.
Okay, since we approved this as an agenda item, we probably need a motion to remove. I'll see if there's a motion to remove this one.
I'll make a motion to remove item number 2 from the agenda.
Motion by Mr. Deloach, second Mr. Laker, to remove item number 2 from the agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. And carries.
Not
Next
to
one.
communicate that to the greater company.
Yeah.
I thought that was for the intent.
Since it's the winter time, so we've got a little time to look at it. And we'll have to go around the areas there. Item number 3, consideration to approve the issue a termination letter to Dr. Quest for copy release services.
Good evening, Fiona Shelton, purchasing agent. At the November 19th meeting, the board approved a new copy lease with Rico USA, which will commence on February the 1st, 2020. As such, a letter of termination needs to be issued to the county's current service provider, BOC Quest. As the termination letter has been reviewed and approved to form by the county attorney, staff recommends alternative 1. Any questions?
Questions or discussion?
Make a motion to approve alternative 1.
Motion by Mr. Deloach, second by Mr. Keith to approve alternative number 1. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. And carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 4, consideration to approve to ratify a submitted proposal and execution of documents in response to the Georgia Coastal Regional Commission Area Agency on Aging request for a proposal for concrete and home delivery meal programs for seniors.
Good evening, Christy Carpenter, Finance Director. Every 4 years, the Coastal Region Commission puts out a bid for the home-based services, which include the congregate and home-delivered meals. And Effingham County submits a proposal to them to act as a vendor for our county. That proposal deadline is noon on 12/5. The grants coordinator has everything ready, and we would just like your permission to proceed.
Sounds good. We've been doing it quite a while. Any questions or discussion?
Make a motion to approve order number one.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Lopez, second by Mr. Deloach, to approve alternate number one. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Motion carries. Item number 5, consideration to approve a resolution to amend the 2019-2020 budget.
In your packets, you have a copy of this resolution. It is an overall increase to the budget. It includes reallocations for the sheriff's office for in-car laptops, IT, a reallocation for spatial engineering contract. The prison is a reduction due to an unfunded GED incentive program. SPLOST has an increase for resurfacing Indigo Road. The senior center has a reallocation from building maintenance for a HVAC replacement. Development services is an increase for development services director and engineer positions, as well as public works will share in that engineer cost, so that is in there as well. And staff is recommending approval, alternative number 1.
We'll read it. Let's have some order. Any questions, discussions from the board? We have a motion to approve alternative number 1.
Make a motion to approve alternative one.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Deloach, second by Mr. Lopez, to approve alternative 1. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 6, consideration to approve to authorize the chairman to sign a landfill letter of the Dollar General site at corner of House 119 North and Clyde Road.
Mr. Chairman, Georgia EPD requires a letter from the local jurisdiction clarifying that we have no knowledge of the landfill in the proximity of where they're putting the well in to serve the new Dollar General out of Clyde.
Just so that we're not approving the landfill, we're giving the letter that we have no knowledge there is a landfill.
That's correct.
Very good. Any question, discussion? Motion for alternative number 1.
Make a motion to approve order number one.
Motion Mr. Burdette for alternative 1. Second.
Second.
Mr. Floyd. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. And carries. Item number 7, consideration to approve the chairman to sign the drinking water project submittal form for Emerald Plantations Phase 2, located off the PJ Road.
Members of the board, on August 19, 2019, Emerald Plantation Phase 2, through their engineer, submitted a construction plans for public water and sewer engineering report and drinking water project submittal for 19-lot subdivision. EOM has reviewed the drinking water project submittal form. EOM, our engineer, public water system engineering report and construction plans for the project to the best of their ability, and believe that based on the information submitted by the design engineer, that the final forms are complete and considered approved for the signature of the chairman. Staff recommends alternative 1. Alternative 1.
Any questions or discussions from the board? Do you have a motion for alternative number 1? Motion by Mr. Floyd, second by Mr. Burdette to approve alternative number 1. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. And carries. Item number 8, consideration to approve to authorize personnel changes in the Effingham County Fire and Rescue Department.
Yes, sir. Vicki Dunn, HR Director. We were asking that the vacant captain position that Chief Hodges has in his fire department be assigned the duties of the training officer for the department. All we're asking for is establish a new job description. There's no impact on the funding, no impact on the personnel assigned. Staff recommends alternative 1.
Just curious, how many captains do we have?
Sir,
How many captains do we have?
6.
6, okay.
Mhm.
Is that the highest ranking, I mean, chief?
They're
I'm sorry.
battalion chief.
That's it, okay. Any other questions, discussion? Got a motion for alternative number 1.
Make a motion to approve alternative 1.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Burdette, second Mr. Floyd, for alternative 1. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Motion carries. Item number 9 has been removed. Item number 10, consideration to approve to revise the human resource standards of practice 5.02, paid time off.
Yes, sir, we're requesting that we amend the policy to include 2 hours off for giving blood. The sheriff's office hosts the Big Red One blood mobile at their location every 6 to 8 weeks. And the employees of the sheriff's office receive paid time off each time they successfully give blood. In order to increase our participation, we would like to offer the employees of Effingham County 2 hours of paid time off when they successfully give blood.
I read through this, but I can't remember if this is in there or not. If they're at work, they still get the 2 hours?
Yes, sir, what we'll do is we'll create another leave bank. And so in order to get credit for the time, they'll have to bring me back the form saying that they successfully gave blood. Then we would add 2 hours to their blood leave bank, basically.
Right, and I knew the employees who were not at work that came in would get the 2 hours, but the ones who are at work get the 2 hours.
No, sir, it would be for anybody, that any of our employees, whether they're off or not, if they come in and give blood, they could get 2 hours.
Yeah, that's what I was clarifying, thank you. Any other question or discussion? I have a motion for alternative number 1.
Make a motion to approve alternative number 1.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Lopez, second by Mr. Deloach for alternative number 1. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Motion carries. Item number 11, consideration to approve an agreement with Anthem Life to allow online access to long and short-term disability claims.
Yes, sir. Anthem is our provider for our long-term and short-term disability. They have an online network that would allow us to go on and look at the claims that we have in process. It would be real-time access to it. It would also give us access to go in there and create new claims or add information to the files and things for the people that might be on short or long-term disability. In order to do this, though, we have to sign an agreement with them. It's basically telling them that we're not going to give out any of their proprietary information, nor will we compromise any private health information that may be available to us. There is no cost with this, sir.
Sure, sounds like something we do. Any questions, discussion with the board? Any motion for alternative number 1?
Second.
Motion by Mr. Floyd, second by Mr. Burdette. Approve alternative 1. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. And carries.
Thank you.
Item number 12, consideration to approve a resolution to appoint county clerk as legislative coordinator with the Association of County Commissioners of Georgia, ACCG.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this has been a practice of the board in the past to confirm or appoint the county clerk as the coordinator for legislative sessions each year. We're just asking for your approval again this year to submit that document to ACCG for review.
Okay. Any questions or discussion? All right, excuse me, have a motion for alternative 1.
Make a motion to approve alternative number 1.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Keith, or second by Mr. Deloach for alternative 1. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Motion carries. Item number 14, consideration to approve the second reading of the ordinance to amend Article 2, Section 9, County Administrator of the Effingham County Code of Ordinances.
Skip one, Mr.
I
Chairman.
did?
Number 13.
I sure did, I apologize. Item number 13, consideration to approve trial of Effingham Day at the Capitol in the board retreat on February 20th, 2020, I should say.
Yes, sir. Effingham Day will be held this year on February 10th in Atlanta. Past years, the board has opted to have a retreat with staff during this time. So staff is putting this item on the agenda for approval for the dates indicated within your staff report.
My computer just started shutting down. I don't know what. I'll have to look on the view and see. All right, so we have the BCCG on the day of the Capitol. We have a retreat there as well, because they'll come back up. Have a motion to approve alternative one.
Commission to approve alternative one.
Second. All right, motion by Mr. Burdette, second by Mr. Loper to approve alternative number one. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. And it carries. I got the genius on that. All right, number 14, consideration to approve the second reading of the ordinance to amend Article 2, Section 9 of the County Administrator of Effingham County.
And Mr. Chairman, as stated, this is the second reading of this ordinance. As indicated by a couple of commissioners, there were a few changes to be made to this ordinance. A copy with including those changes has been included in your additional materials folder. Those changes are related to the purchasing agent. That would be under H on page 2 of 5. That verbiage has been stricken. And also under R. That verbiage has been stricken as well. These changes were made by the county attorney and should include all changes directed by the board.
Is there any questions or discussion from the board?
Should the title of section 9 be changed?
I'm sorry?
Should the title of section 9 be changed? Or does it matter?
Section 9. Should the title be changed?
Yeah, section 9, county administrator.
Yes. Yes.
So did you just address it up?
It should say county manager.
It will be changed.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. We've been working on this for a while, and we're excited to go from administrator with our size county to go to a manager who will have a little more authority to administer with staff and oversee the operations of the county. So it's a big move forward for our county. Any other questions or discussions? Back up and running, so alternative one would be to approve the amendment. Do you have a motion for alternative one?
Make a motion to approve alternative one.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Burdette, second by Mr. Kiefer, to approve alternative one. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. And carries. Just been promoted to county manager, but don't expect a raise.
I'll use the remainder of my business cards.
With that, we do need to probably approve a resolution as a board requesting our local delegation to pass a bill changing. I think that was suggested by the CCG.
We did.
I think it's just housekeeping more than anything.
Yeah, I mean, we will reach out to them, let them know, but we did talk to ACCG, who informed us that it doesn't have to be, nothing has to be approved on the legislative side.
Okay, okay. I remember them saying that, but
Right.
they said it might not be a bad idea. That's fine.
Basically what this means, a lot what this means is that everything pretty much runs through our manager. Personnel matters, all these matters that come up from day to day, when we go through our manager, he'll involve us as necessary. So we appreciate taking on that extra responsibility. All right, item number 15 is new business. Consideration to approve an intergovernmental agreement between Effingham County and the city of Lincoln for construction and maintenance for 92 route of Fort Howard and Old Augusta Road.
Mr. Chairman, back in between April and June of last year, there was discussions with Lincoln about entering into an IGA so the county can handle the construction of the Fort Howard Old Augusta Road roundabout. The roundabout with the annexation of the Grandview tract is within the municipal limits of Lincoln. The county was issued a grant by DOT. So rather than the potential of losing that grant, we just agreed that, it was agreed at the time that the county would handle construction. While it was drafted, it was never passed. And it was brought to my attention by one of the commissioners, and I looked it up, and in fact, it was not passed. I did reach out to the city manager, John Flynn, who said let him know that this was going to be on the agenda tonight. He said he will put it up for discussion on his Monday meeting next Monday. And I believe the chairman discussed this with Mayor Ken Lee to assure that the IGA matches what was discussed back in earlier in the year.
Yes, I did. I called him direct and read those particular clauses about the grant being used and the city funding it through a special service district act. And he agreed that's what we had discussed and agreed on. So hopefully this will go through and we'll have that IGA signed. But we do need this in place so we can continue that work and complete it. Any other questions or discussion? We have a motion for alternative number 1.
Make a motion to approve alternative number 1. Second.
Motion Mr. Kiefer, second by Mr. Deloche, to approve alternative number 1. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. And it carries. And the last item under new business is consideration to approve amendment number 1 to the agreement for the purchase and sale of real estate volume between Renaissance Bank and the Board of Commissioners of Effingham County.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to request that we move this till after the executive session at the end of the meeting so we can discuss terms in executive session.
All right, well, with that, I want to suggest we forego the administrative reports and go straight to executive session. I think we got 25 minutes. That'll give us time to do that back at 6 o'clock with the public hearing. And that would want to hold any staff, anybody else, for a longer meeting. Okay? So we're going to, I'm entering a motion for executive session, discuss personnel, property, and community litigation.
Make a motion to approve executive session to discuss personnel, property, and pending litigation. Second.
First, Mr. Kiefer, second, Mr. Deloche. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. And it carries. So if we're not through executive session, we'll be back at 6 o'clock. We'll just need to come back out, so we don't have to wait, you can stretch and visit whatever we do for the next 20 minutes. Okay? Yeah, bathrooms. Good. We're going to go back into the regular session. Need a motion to go back into regular
Make a
session.
motion to go back to regular session.
Motion by Mr. Deloche, second by Mr. Burdette, to go back into regular session. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. And it carries. You go ahead and get a motion to approve the executive minutes of November 19.
We didn't have a meeting.
Okay.
No.
Very good. All right, we're going to move into our old business, which had a public hearing, and we'll go into the public hearing for new items in just a minute. Under old business, the public hearing that we tabled last week to this week, the planning board recommended denying the application by Wilson Burns of Blanford Homes LLC to rezone 136.26 acres located at 1147 Goshen Road, AR1 to AR6, for development of a subdivision consisting of approximately 102 lots. This is map number 451, parcel number 22 in the 2nd district, We'll open up the public hearing and we'll first hear from our staff.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Blanford Homes LLC requested to rezone 136 acres from AR1 to R6 to create a subdivision, approximately 102 homes, 6,600 square foot lots on 1147 Goshen Road. The request for rezoning is a requirement of Appendix C, Article 9, and the zoning districts are described in Appendix C, including R6 zoning. R6 zoning allows for 6 dwelling units per buildable acre. The applicant is proposing 39.1 acres as a project area, which by ordinance would allow 186 units, but the applicant is proposing 102 units on the acreage of parcel 33.51 acres open space and 87.15 acres wetlands. Staff reviewed the application and recommended approval with the following stipulations. The site development plans comply with the Effingham County Water Resources Protection Ordinance and Stormwater Management Local Design Manual. 2, that the development must meet the requirements of R6 zoning district and that all wetland impacts have to be permitted by the United States Army Corps of Engineers. The planning board meeting, there were numerous citizen comments and concerns regarding infrastructure, traffic, tax values, and school impacts brought on by the continued development in the area. Mr. Brad Smith on the planning board made a motion to deny the request for R6 zoning. The motion was seconded by Ms. Juanita Golden and carried with affirmative votes from members Higgins and Smith. Mr. Zipper was not in attendance and Mr. Byrne had to abstain. So of the alternatives, staff recommends alternative 2, which was based on the staff recommendation to approve the request for R6 zoning with those stipulations listed. Alternative 1 would be denied. That would be based on the Planning Commission's recommendation.
Very good. We're in a public hearing, so now we'll listen to those who want to speak for this rezoning. You can state your name for the record.
Wilson Burns, good evening. I'm representing Blanford Homes on the project here. It's roughly 139 acre tract of land located off of Goshen Road that just across the CSX, I believe, railroad line, or maybe it's Norfolk Southern. But the property, I purchased it in the last couple of months, and we've been doing back for the last 6 months or so, been studying wetlands and that sort of thing on the project, on the piece of property, which the sketch that we've got turned into you, we do expect to reduce the number of lots some. I think we had based on a 39 acre project area is now closer to 30 acres, so the lot numbers will also reduce some from there. So certainly will be, you know, some number less than the number shown here.
Mr. Burns, I'm sorry, you say some number less, you're talking about 102 number?
Yeah, less than, I expect it to maybe be in the 85 or 90 range, but there's no, you know, until we go further into the planning stages and design stages, can't make any guarantees there. I know it's going to be less than 102. You know, there were a lot of, at the planning and zoning meeting, there were a lot of concerns about infrastructure, traffic, and schools, as Mr. Callahan said. as you know, one of the things is we've looked at the design that we've got to this point as far as the traffic concerns go. I know there's lots of improvements going on and planned as far as the Effingham Parkway and the potential for maybe Goshen Road to be improved. But you know, from the project entrance point of view, we have not got, further into the design phase is when we'll do the traffic studies and figure out what kind of turn lanes and things will need to be there. You know, and typically I think that's done by, you know, where DOT sets the warrants at, and we certainly intend to fully meet those requirements. But we do not have that design as of today. School issues, I mean, Effingham County is, you know, one of our big draws is our schools, and I know the school board, you know, they plan and strategize to stay ahead of the growth, and you know, it's done a phenomenal job over the growth we've seen over the last decade or so. So I expect they'll continue to do that. I don't question that. From a pricing standpoint for the subdivision, you know, typically these things take from tonight, if it moved forward tonight and went toward design, construction, and then construction of homes, I would expect it'd be more, you know, those things don't happen overnight. You're talking more along an 18-month timeline. So to know exactly what will be built, where the market is and everything there, I struggle to make a commitment of exactly those things, but I have heard a lot of comment that we're going to build $100,000 to $150,000 homes on the piece of property, and not only is that not true, it's not feasible with what development costs are today and what the lots will sell for. The lot would make up, you know, the greater majority of the cost of that. So one thing I've been working on the last since the planning and zoning board is to design a set of covenants for the piece of property that set a minimum square footage requirement that what we try to do is make it equal or greater to the adjoining neighborhood, Autumn Woods. So we've set a 2,400 square foot minimum building size, which I believe, you know, is equal or greater than what the Autumn Woods is. Aside from that,
What was the last thing you said?
I believe that's equal to or greater than where the Autumn Woods requirements are.
Please, no comments, please.
For size, but I know these lots are smaller, but the buyers in today's market don't look for, you know, these size lots have gotten a lot more popular. Where when Autumn Woods was developed, there wasn't sewer down Goshen Road. The market of buyer was a little different. What people, you know, today look for an easier lifestyle as far as maintenance of their yards and that sort of thing. So I'm here for any more questions or concerns.
There may be some questions. Does anyone else want to speak for this rezoning tonight? I'm going to move to see who would want to speak against this rezoning tonight. I see a large crowd. If you're here to speak against this tonight, could you just raise your hands so we can see who's ready for this one issue? Okay. If there's a spokesperson that would like to come and start the discussion, share with us the objections.
Good morning, gentlemen. My name is Michael Oliver. I'm the Secretary and Treasurer of the Georgia Plantation and Property Owners Association, which is the neighborhood directly across from the proposed development. First thing I want to point out is the master of the obvious. Notice there's only one person who's in favor of this, and that is the developer that's here tonight. Secondly, it just common sense wise, if you look at Goshen, it's a 2-lane highway, and right now the present infrastructure along Goshen with 2 active railroads cannot handle the present population that's there. Now, I'm all for expanding. I think y'all are in a great situation as far as Effingham County is growing. That's wonderful. But we want to make sure we grow smart and make sure we stay ahead with the infrastructure, and we're just simply not. The other thing I'd like to point out too with the developer is there's a lot of things that aren't answered. Exactly how many homes, exactly what is the square footage? It seems like we're still trying to figure a lot of those things out. And as I said in the planning meeting, you know, most of the time a developer will move to purchase a property with the contingent that it can be rezoned. The fact that the developer went ahead and totally bought this property without having that contingency just doesn't pass the smell test to me. So I would just encourage you, I know your staff, and I don't know who your staff are, approve recommending this, but I would encourage you all to consider the will of the people, and from what I'm seeing, the will of the people is that this should not be approved. Thank you.
Does anyone else want to speak against this rezoning tonight?
Hi, my name is Patrick Murphy, and I'm from Autumn Woods. And in looking at the zoning right as it stands, if you rezone the property, there's still sections that could be developed further up on the upper sections. There is one fact. You're not just going to zone it as R6 just for what he's presenting. You're going to rezone the whole area, which means that there's going to be a lot more building there once it's rezoned. That's one. Two, the engineering plans for Union C are very inadequate. They don't show anything that shows, they show, I looked at the LiDAR, which provided, the LiDAR shows wetlands, which is inaccurate to date. So you need to take that into consideration. The cost of a pumping station for the project itself would have to be incurred by who? Us? It also, the water structure that's out there now is not adequate to provide us with enough pressure as it is. Right? Yes. I mean, you know, we don't have enough water. You can't turn, you can take a shower and it's dribbling. It's crazy, you know, in the summertime. So that's one of the things that should have been addressed beforehand, okay? The schools are overloading the schools. That's never taken into consideration by a developer, nor have there been any GDOT engineering done off of 21 to show what the impact would be. These are all things that should be in consideration before we're thinking about any rezoning at all. I can tell you honestly, I'd love you to build bigger homes out there, $300,000, $350,000 homes. I'd love you to squeeze as many in as you possibly could. That'd be great. I just can't see quarter acre or smaller or 6,000, you know, square feet places. You know, I'm all for developing and for keeping value up in our neighborhoods. And you know, there's just not enough engineering here that justifies any of this. I also was a consultant on the property up on 454 Argyle. We ended up paying close to $1 million in the sewer system and water system up there. So I know what it costs to put stuff down the road. So I just want to know who's going to pay for it. And it shouldn't be us. We have enough issues with our water.
Evening.
Yes, sir.
I'm Josh Eagleman. I'm in Autumn Woods. I don't know, for the planning committee, the whole neighborhood signed a petition. Eagleman, E-A-G-E-L-M-A-N. Last time at the planning committee, we had a petition that the whole neighborhood signed. We gave to them. I don't know if that was passed on to you or not.
It is in fact.
Okay, so it was noted. Okay, thank you. You know, we're just looking at the density. You know, in the small area, and then we're looking at, I know the builder said about turn lanes, and that's a 2-lane road, and the shoulders drop on either side. It doesn't seem like you've done too much property research there, because there's nowhere to put a turn lane, right? Where you're proposing, that's the railroad tracks right there, backing up to those lots right there. There's no room to put a turn lane. And then schools, we had 2 teachers here that spoke at the planning committee, and they already said that they're overbooked. They're over 20 to 30% over the actual rated class size. So I don't know if that's been looked at. That was 2 teachers, you know, first-hand experience. You also said the lots per the house will match Autumn Woods, Georgia Plantation. Your lot size to home size will be on 0.31 acres for a house. There's no way you could put the size of Georgia Plantation Olive Woods houses on that small of a lot. Water pressure, yes, water pressure is a factor. When we built our house, the builder knew when we had the irrigation put in, they cut the sprinkler heads back on the zone to 4 per zone, and he said run them at night because the water pressure is so low. So that's firsthand experience. The high volume of traffic on that road, if there's any emergency, there's not enough room to get off the shoulders to drop right off. The roads aren't wide enough, so I don't even know how you would handle the higher volume of traffic that road's gonna incur. And you know, a lot of us are worried about property value. You know, we chose that area of Goshen because it is secluded, it's quiet. We have a high tax value, and I think that's something that should be considered. But that's all I have. Thank you.
Anyone else speaking against this rezoning tonight?
Hi, my name is Bob Gary. I live in Georgia Plantation.
Bob Gary?
Gary, G-E-A-R-Y. I just have a couple things. First of all, we're looking at this sketch plan, and you know, especially when Mr. Burns mentioned that I can't guarantee this, I can't commit to that. That's not a commitment either. You know, it's my understanding that if this zoning is approved, you know, maybe that's what they'll end up doing, or maybe the property will be sold as it will have appreciated in value. You know, we just don't know what will happen. But they could put something completely different in there as long as it meets this R6 zoning. There's been a lot of speculation. You know, we've seen a lot of areas where developers are able to go back and submit for permits to convert some of the wetlands. So we really don't know how many houses will end up in there. You know, we see this, I think today they said 39 acres, previously we heard 30 acres, where all of these initial houses were going to go. It just seems hard to believe that you buy 136 acres and move to have the whole 136 acres rezoned, but you're really only intending on using 30 acres or 39 acres. So that's very concerning, because I've always read that when, in regards to rezoning, you have to assume that whatever the worst that zoning will allow is what could happen. And so we look at this and think, you know, I don't know how many houses could end up in there. I don't know how much of that wetland could in fact be converted. I've seen a lot of things where developers agree to put ponds in, or, you know, do this or that, or various things they can convert and make some of that land usable. But there could easily be, you know, double or triple these number of houses, maybe more than that. You know, I don't know enough to know what you'd have to allow for roads and common areas and things of that nature. But certainly it could be a lot more than 102 or 85 or whatever it actually is. So then a lot of people have talked about the traffic on Goshen. If instead of adding, you know, 200 cars, we're adding 1,000 cars or 800 cars or whatever, it can really get to be significant. It's in the mornings trying to get out of there, and in the evening it can really be bad, let alone if there's an accident on 21 or on Hodgeville Road or on Highway 30, then, you know, it's going to take you an hour and a half to get off that road. So then it was mentioned that, you know, maybe there'll be some improvements to the road to address this. Well, turning lanes might be one thing that, you know, is required right in an entrance like that, but the only kind of improvement that's going to make it so that these traffic things are mitigated to some extent is widening the road, and probably widening Hodgeville, and, you know, I don't know what you have to do elsewhere. Well, if that's what we're really looking at, I'd like to know that. And if we're all going to be asked to give up land, you know, our house backs up to Goshen. Right now, the back wall of our house is 60 feet from the edge of the road. 60 feet's close enough. I don't want it to be 45 feet. You know, we already have enough noise there. I guess that's really my only point. I hope you guys really consider the impact of everybody's quality of life that's already there. A lot of people have gotten up here and said they're pro-development, they want development to happen, but they want it to be smart development, and I think everybody would echo that. You know, if there needs to be a traffic study, shouldn't the traffic study be done while it can still be considered as part of your decision? You know, right now, the just personal experience that everyone has there is that that road and the roads that it lets out into can't handle what's there already. So it would really seem to be a better thing to find out if it can handle another 200 or 400 or 600 or whatever it ends up being cars. So anyway, appreciate you listening to me, and hope you
Anyone else speaking against this was on tonight?
Good evening, my name is Debbie Wiley. I live at 333 Purple Plum, which directly borders this new development. We've had 2 realtors out to our house since the last zoning meeting. Our house appraised for almost $500,000, and we were told that the minute a bulldozer goes on that property, our property value, maybe not the value of our house, but what we can sell it for will drop $30,000. Now, I know everyone has to start somewhere. We started in a garden home when my husband and I were first married, but our neighborhood that we started in was not next to houses that were $500,000. The developer said that the average size house in Autumn Woods is 2,400 square feet. That is very not true. That might be the smallest house in Autumn Woods. We're 4,310 under roof. I know other houses, the one next to me is over 5,000 square feet. To ask that on my back property that sits about 3/4 of an acre wide, we're now going to put 5 houses that back to mine, they can't be the size of my house and be that many on an acre. It's just feasibly not doable. And I agree with Mr. Gary on the point that I believe that road studies should be done. I've talked to the people at the Army Corps of Engineers. They said preliminary studies are being done, but no permits have yet to be applied for or granted for even any of this to back to these wetlands. There's no plan in place as far as berms or whatever. And that's coming from 2 people from the Army Corps of Engineers in Savannah that I spoke to regarding this. I think that before any rezoning is done, the traffic studies need to be done. The permitting needs to be in place. The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers needs to say, it's okay, because they did tell me that wetlands can be filled in with the proper permitting. So I'm considering that whole 100 acres eventually being done, not just the 30. But I don't think that we should say, let's just rezone it and hope for the best. I mean, you just can't, you can't do that without a plan. You just don't say, well, we're going to add 600 houses or 100 houses. We don't know. We don't know if the roads can handle it. I know the roads can't be widened. The parkway is irrelevant because that's going to the railroad switching station up here on McCall Road that's going in. So that alleviates no traffic from Goshen Road itself. Flooding is a big issue. I took pictures the last time it rained of my house because we sit to wetland. It floods. Every time it rains, it floods. And if you put houses behind me, well, the only way they're going to build back there is if they raise up the ground. So they're going to raise it up, so where's that water coming? Right back onto my property. And I just wanted you to be aware that you know, while my house value may not go down, what I can sell it for, that we've, you know, I've raised my children here. We've been here over 20 years. And we've worked hard for what we have. And to ask us personally, that's not including all my other neighbors, to take a hit of $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 in house value of what we can sell it for because this neighborhood is next to us, it's just not fair. It's not fair for those of us that have lived here 20 years. You have another development going up on Old Augusta Road. I don't know if it's apartments, townhouses, or whatever. You can touch them. You can stand between them and touch them. And I'm 5 feet tall, and I can touch them. I can't imagine that we have the need, that's Effingham County, that we have the need for another 100 and potentially 186 or more houses in there. Have they even sold the ones that are off of Old Augusta being built? You know, I don't see it. Traffic is a nightmare. If I don't leave my house, I work 3 miles from the school. I don't have to be there till 7:15. I leave my house at 6:05. I live 3 miles away. Because I can't, if I wait later, I can't get to school on time if there's a wreck on 21. So I think all those things need to be considered before any rezoning. All these studies need to be in, the proper permitting needs to be in place. Everything else needs to be addressed before it can be rezoned to anything, I believe. Thank you.
I'm Becky Alford. I live in Autumn Woods at 315 Purple Plum. I moved here 30 years ago, and I know many of you on this board, and I know many of you love our county as much as I do. You love your children. You came here like I did all these years ago because it was a wonderful county, but we have sat back and watched it grow in leaps and bounds. And at our schools, I work at South Effingham High School, and my husband is on the school board. We have watched this unbelievable influx of people, especially on our end of the county. I'm not sure about this end, but we just have this unbelievable amount of people just coming in and coming in. Our high school at South Effingham is as big as Effingham, and it's never been at that point. I work in the media center, and we have no more extra rooms in the whole school. We're using rooms, and you may think that's a school board problem, guys, but it's not. It's a whole county problem. It's our problem, and it's something that I think we just all need to look at and think about how fast we're developing, and maybe if we could just slow down a little bit, and maybe just think about rezoning. When we have a zone in place, I've always been taught when you have a zone in place, if you want to do something else with the property before you sell it, you rezone it to that. I have a piece of property in Point Worth that we rezoned to commercial, but we had to do it before we sold it commercial. I'm just asking that you think about, if you had this property zoned at that AR1, you leave it close to that. Don't throw it way down to R6 and make our area so much overcrowded. We just have so much going on, and everybody's already said everything I was going to say, but I do want to read one thing to y'all. Because like I said, many of you, I know you and you're my friends, but your mission statement, it says, it is the mission of Effingham County Board of Commissioners to provide, through the highest integrity, a county government which will assure our citizens a safe and healthy environment to encourage and promote a high quality of life. Some of you need to ride with me at work in the morning. It's not a very healthy environment. I am fussing and raising Cain that I live 8 miles, and it takes me a long time to get to work, and I don't live that far. But I love my community, I love this county, and I'm willing to work with y'all. If you want me to start a UDA like Bryan County has started, where they do a plan for the whole county, I'll get on the committee. I'll be glad to. We just need to slow down and look at our county. We love it. We thank you for all you do. We just ask that you please consider thinking about us that live on that end of the county and what we're having to endure. Thank you.
who's on tonight. If you could, if you have comments that are different or in addition to, you know, say like the previous spokesperson said, I agree with the things that have been said and give us the new information, that'd be very helpful time-wise.
Okay, my name is Rhonda Barlow, and I live at 202 White Bluff. I don't live on the end that they do, but I'm very concerned about this. When I moved here 13 years ago, it took me 20 minutes to get to work. It took me less than 5 to get out of my community. Now, if I don't leave by 6:45, I don't have to be to work at 7:30. I can't. I can't make it in less than 45 minutes. If there's an accident on anywhere, I'm stuck. And when I first heard about this, my first reaction was, are they kidding? So I'm not against development. I just need to know what you all are going to do so that the problem is of traffic. I'm concerned about the water table. I'm on a community well. I grew up in the city. Moving to the country was an experience for me. But I do know that after you have so much waste and everything else sitting on top, it's going to seep down to the bottom. I'm a well water. So I think that's another consideration, because even though it's up the street, waterways feed into each other. And I just need to know whether or not it's going to affect the water that me and my kids drink. I think that's about it. Everybody else has said everything else.
Thank you so much.
Good evening. My name is Kimberly Kilborn. I live at 104 Autumn Drive.
I'm sorry, what was your name?
Kimberly Kilborn. I kind of wanted to add also to what Ms. Becky said regarding the rezoning. One thing I found online is that what's very interesting is that the property, the way that they were advertising it was that it would be a good development, which I found odd that they would have a property that's agriculture, assuming that it would automatically be changed to development property, especially where it is, because of the heavy population we have on the south side already. I also found it interesting that they only paid $475,000 for 138 acres, and my one house cost almost that much. So to say that it's going to be an expense to the builder, I find highly unlikely. I think it would be very profitable for the builder. And I think we've seen a lot of that in the county since we had the economy take a hit. I think we've seen a lot of properties that were originally zoned for equestrian or bigger uses. Because of the economy changes, it's been sold to banks, and then it's been spun off to builders who are slicing and dicing it up into smaller properties. So I found that quite interesting as well. And I don't know why you would buy a property if you didn't feel certain that you could turn it and develop it. It seems like there's been a lot of time and effort involved in this little sliver when we have tons of property all over the county. And looking at the south side overall, we have a huge population. Majority of the county lives on the south side. And in addition to what Becky said, I think that we have an opportunity now to look at the whole. And when we are looking at putting in houses, regardless of the size or price, it should make sense as to where they're being put, like being closer to infrastructure, or maybe towards a part of the community that isn't as dense. And maybe the denser part of the communities, we need to start to focus on making them healthy communities or keeping them healthy communities. The south side, I said this before at the planning meeting, I read the applicable plan, and you guys have just come out with a new one. And a lot of that plan talks about how we're going to develop overall as a county. The south side, even though we have the majority of people living over there, we really don't have a lot of facilities over on our end. We don't have any libraries. We don't have any parks. We don't have any pathways. We don't have any trails, sidewalks, green space. We don't have any of that. But that's been discussed in every applicable plan that's been put out by the county. So I think we have an opportunity in growing to change that and start to be proactive about the county while we still have the opportunity to be before we become cooler. We are a bedroom community. We have a lot of development. What we need, everybody knows, we need more industry. We don't want to be just a bedroom community. So as a whole, we need to start to look at that as well. And for those of us that have lived here, how you are going to help us enjoy the reason we came here to begin with. What else? We've had rapid growth, I've discussed that. We have no infrastructure, quality of life. Transportation is an issue. On Goshen Road, it's kind of comical every day on the news when you're going to work. You hear Highway 95 is backed up, Highway 21 is backed up, Goshen Road is backed up. Goshen Road is not a main road in this county, but it is on the news because there's so many people using those roads to try to leave to go to their jobs that it's become an issue like people have been talking about. Everybody knows Goshen Road. The intersections are not safe. We have no buffers between subdivisions and roads. We have outdated traffic studies. Not only Goshen, but Hodgeville, Highway 30, 21, they can't support the traffic. We can't support any more traffic. The density, it is not in the density scheme planning, the overall planning of the county. I think that's pretty, oh, one last thing. We were rezoned last year. Our middle school and high schoolers were rezoned because of the growth in our area. I've been here since '06, and my child has attended South School District since then, but for her 8th grade and others who were in school at the time, we were told that she could no longer attend that school because of newer growth that had come in, and that she would have to go across town to Ebenezer Middle School. And my son, who was 1 grade ahead of her, could still stay. So I would have kids going separate ways. That's not quality of life. A lot of us moved here. We don't have family here. We have those around us for support. They said they didn't have enough money to build another school. So they had a 5-year plan in place. This is last year. So they rezoned our area. That alone tells you that we don't have any more space over there. We have to focus on building things around us, improving our schools, etc. That's pretty much all I have to say. Thank you for your time.
If I can make one more quick there were some documents being emailed around a couple weeks ago, and I've got one here. It's apparently a facts and findings, a staff facts and findings document associated. It says date November 7th, and it was, I think it was a planning document for the November 19th meeting. And on here, it listed 3 alternatives, whereas 2 were mentioned earlier. The third alternative was to rezone it to R1, which would allow a home per half acre. And down below that, under recommendation, it says staff recommends alternative 3, reducing the zoning to R1 to lower the impact zoning district would allow lots of size comparable to neighboring subdivisions. So I'm curious what's happened since then. If that was staff's recommendation at that time, was there new information or something that caused it to change?
Would you like to answer that? Okay. What essentially happened is staff makes a recommendation at Planning Commission. Planning Commission bases their decision on the staff recommendation. The staff cannot turn around and then make an alternate recommendation and then not bring it back as an option to the Planning Commission. So staff made an error in that case, where they requested this curtain number 3 type of thing, because for one, the applicant didn't request R1, and we were recommending something they didn't request. So traditionally, how it's, the recommendation should stay the same between Planning Commission meeting and when it goes to the Board of Commissioners. And so it did not, and so that's why prior to going to the meeting, it was removed and corrected.
I see. It does bring to mind, well, I guess I would ask, how often does staff's recommendation end up being counter to what the planning committee recommended?
I don't know the statistics on that, but
it does happen many times. Many times, the planning board may recommend something, staff may recommend denying it because they have a more, I'm gonna say, expertise. They're hired for their training and skills, and the planning board lots of times is business people in the community that have good knowledge of our community and listen to the folks and they bring recommendations to us. But the staff, we expect a higher understanding of the zoning laws, water sewer requirements, transportation, all those things that they have to look at from a legal standpoint. And so many times they may counter a recommendation by the board. They've also overturned on the positive side when the board might reject something.
I see. I guess that makes sense. I guess I was under the impression that the planning, well, maybe I'm mixing up planning committee and the county's plan, development plan, which would seem to need things like traffic studies and things like that be taken into account. So while they may have more knowledge of the legalities associated with this and procedural, and I certainly understand when you have a committee of laymen that they don't necessarily have all of that. But I would think that the county does have, I think it was mentioned that the county had an overall development plan and that this was outside of it.
Well, actually, I will get into Commissioner's comments, but I was noticing two of the there's only 3 planning board members that were at this meeting. I was wondering one abstained and only 3 others were attendance. But 2 of the 3 said this was not inconsistent with the master plan and their summation of their decision, even though they did deny it. So I was looking very closely to see what they had said.
And one said that it was.
1 out of 3 said that it was not consistent with the master plan.
Okay.
2 of the 3 said it was.
Okay, well, I guess maybe that.
I know they did not. I'm just saying that.
Maybe the development plan.
That the planning board thought this was outside the development plan. Probably would be completely accurate because it was coming from the years.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else with anything that they want to add to that's been shared tonight? We're going to have some questions and answers, I'm sure, for Mr. Burns, and we'll try to answer some questions you asked tonight as well. You have something you add?
Good evening. My name is Jerry Trineri. I'm the president of the Georgia Plantation Homeowners Association. I'm not much of one for a public speaking, but I'll just want to throw out my 2 cents worth. I'll try to keep it short and sweet. If I could direct your attention, please just look at the plot. I mean, look at the density compared to what's around here. I moved here from Kansas, rural Kansas. I love the rural feel of my community, all that kind of stuff. Got in there, perfect. I was close to all the conveniences, everything else. Sounds to me like what I hear the most out of everyone, and it's my concern too, is congestion. I mean, we've gone in, we've allowed Belmont, Glen, these high density neighborhoods. We haven't done anything to improve the roadways. For God's sake, make Hodgeville 4 lanes between Goshen and Collikelmy. That will at least relieve something. Do that quickly, and then people can start moving. My daughter drives back and forth to school. I'm scared to death for her. I mean, because of the density of traffic, and it's like, so do it for the safety of our children, that kind of stuff. I don't know that we're necessarily opposed to this man putting into development. I wish the density was lower than what it is, but please address the infrastructure before we do a lot more of these neighborhoods, because it's really destroying the quality of life in the area.
I agree. Let me address that one issue for board of line before we get into our board time. We have identified 6 roads that we need to want to move to a 3-lane first with decel and XL lanes. If you've been on Fort Howard Road where Lincoln is, it'd be much like that. It allows when someone wants to turn into the neighborhood, traffic can keep on moving as they go into the turning lane. Or if they're turning right, they get into a decel lane so no one runs into the back of them. It's going to be very expensive, but we've identified 6 roads, Lodgeville and Goshen Road are 2 of those roads. We're looking at McCall Road where the Parkway will continue out, portions of Blue Jay to move traffic along there as well. So we have 6 roads that we've identified that we want to complete within 5 years. And we have to back up here a little bit. The reason why that has not been done is the revenues have not been there for the Board of Commissioners. So I'm for the previous board, we're all fairly new to the Board of Commissioners here. Some on the second term, on the first term, and so forth. But the previous board was hit with just a little statewide infrastructure while we're behind. When the property values crashed in 2008 and 09, we lost about 25 to 30% of our digest. We just got it back. The taxes that we collected in 2018 was what we collected in 2008. That's how bad the crash was for us. So with new development, we finally got the digest, and we did increase our millage rate. That was one of the choices the board could have done. They could increase the millage rate and have more revenues to do the infrastructure. Probably that might not have been a bad decision. It would have been a political suicide for those who like to serve in public office, but probably been a bad decision. But with that said, we are not going to raise the taxes. We're not looking at doing that. We're looking at generating revenues, maybe even through a T-SPLOS that the community helps. We're working on other avenues, but we are committed to in 5 years having those 6 roads. You're going to hear more about that. We're trying to put that plan together now to give it to the public. We're going to have 3 lanes and some eventually 4 lanes, which should really exponentially increase the cost. But we believe with the Parkway, for instance on Goshen Road, and I'll use Hodgeville as well, if we can make those roads safer, we really got to be safer. With the 3 lanes and the XL decel lanes, and those 2 roads along, and the Parkway can empty from both ways. So people have a choice, 21 or the Parkway, to go to Goshen Road or Hodgeville. They have a choice now. They can go the Parkway, or they can go down, hopefully, they can go to Blue Jay, because it's going to be 3 lane. And go, there's a lot of ways that can go. And we're trying to give more avenues to get in and out and get safer with that.
Well,
millions of dollars, but we're committed to getting that infrastructure. Now, I'll just say this doesn't mean we're going to say yea or no, we listen to all the arguments tonight and discussion, but we don't feel like, and we said this with Belmont Land subdivision, that we can put the infrastructure on the developers of the roads. The water and sewer is a different issue. They've got to develop their own. If we need a lift station, they need to develop a lift station. If we need to cut the portion main, you don't put that on our citizens. They've got to do the development that meets the requirements. And I'll say one more thing here. We recognize, when I got on the board, we talked about it as a board. We recognize that our water pressure was bad, our water quality was not where we wanted to be. And we got with our engineers, and we've done a lot that you probably don't know about already. We're going to be completing looping the lines, I hope by June. We're already doing our second part of our loop. We'll have our third loop done, I hope by June or July of next year. Looping the lines creates pressure. We had a lot of lines that were deadheads, and that's one reason you lose pressure. It goes and stops, and it doesn't make pressure. When you get a loop, you not only get better quality because it's not stagnant, you get better pressure. In addition to that, we've already authorized the engineers to design. We've already got this funding through our SPLOS, so we're going to see if this gets done. And I think it'll be done in the next year. We're waiting for the design to get done, and we'll put it out for bid. A booster station that'll be on Highway 30 where our water comes. And you're going to see the water pressure that's like, it's going to be really strong. But we need a booster station. But it's going to be about $1.5 million. But that's going to help. So we think we've got infrastructure plans. We think we've got water and sewer plans to handle those pressures. And not only that, I'll just say about public safety. We are beefing up 4 firefighters in the southern region. We've improved, I don't know if there's anything from the sheriff that we're denying in the way of what he needs to provide public safety. That's why we're all considered Rankin, which is really South Effingham area, the #1 place to live in Georgia, because it is safe. They're based on safety, schools, all the amenities like fire, recreation that we have and so forth.
We have rating 3 now, ISO.
Yeah, we just went to an ISO of 3. We committed the infrastructure and personnel to do that, which means we're going to get to our homes faster. We're going to do a better job of that. So there's a lot we've been doing the last 3 years. It's probably you don't see that you will see in the next 12 months as far as water, sewer, and infrastructure. And more in the next 2 to 3 years as we
Well, I've been in the area for 8 years now, and I've heard about the parkway since I got here, and I understand it kind of got put on hold because of the economy and all that, how it lagged behind. But it's almost frustrating and almost ironic to me that Chatham County is completing their section before we even get started on ours. And I understand that it will help relieve some of that traffic, but I also know that it's going to put traffic on Goshen Road, because anybody that works at Gulfstream that lives on Rincon, this side of Blue Jay, is going to go to Goshen Road, cut over and pick up the parkway to go on in. So I mean, you know, we're creating different problems as we go.
But you know, the parkway, well, we share your frustrations. Matter of fact, we've had multiple conversations as a board with our manager too, with our engineers. And I said, I don't care what it is, all these little obstacles. The environmental folks found this gravestone, then they found this rice paddy. These are things you have to research and they keep.
We also have 40 parcels versus Chatham County's 6 parcels purchased right away.
Yeah.
So,
but I haven't seen any land acquisition yet that took place other than the industrial development sections that, I mean.
We are just about done. And I would say by the end of December, we're either going to have every one of them done or resolved.
and understand your opinion, I mean, because general.
Well, I mean, it's just my view. I mean, I only see bits and pieces of the
Yeah,
picture
I mean,
and
you
all
don't
that.
see everything going on behind the scenes. There's a lot of meetings we've had on the right-of-way process. This is new for me. We've had a lot of meetings. Yeah, so once we get it done, the start button is obtaining the right-of-way, and that's when we can move forward with DOT. And we're hoping to have that certified with DOT by March. Certified with them, that's about a 60-day process. So we're getting really close to move, actually you seeing stuff, bulldozers coming in.
That's awesome. The one thing I would say though.
In June, July, if we can get that thing laid, get that certified. The other thing is too, in our plan is that we want to go ahead and get 4 lanes. So when that 2 lanes is being built, which will relieve some traffic, they'll have the XLT cell lanes on it. But we're only going to go ahead and start engineering immediately. So when that's done, those 2 lanes can stay open. We can start building the other 2 lanes. So one of the things we've got to do as a board is, it's challenging, but we've got to find the resources and get out ahead of the infrastructure. And that's what we're working to do.
But if there's anything that you can do with the intersection of Goshen Road and Hodgeville for the short term, temporary, any kind of relief that you could give, I mean, that is really the intersection. I mean, it's going to still be hard getting out on the 30, but that particular one, it took me 30 minutes. It backs up a half a mile and people cannot get off of Goshen Road onto Hodgeville. That's where the big...
That one in Colorado,
yeah, when they're coming back the opposite direction, I agree. Yes.
Both of those are intersections that we want to address to just widen 3 lanes and XLT cells. So it should help.
All right, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any other objections to this rezoning?
If I can speak for just a moment. My name is Mark Granger. I live in Georgia Plantation. I've lived in Paddleford subdivision. I've lived in Barrington, and we built a home in Georgia Plantation. So, like most of the people in this room, we're heavily invested in the area. What I'd like to point out is there's been a lot of discussion about the traffic. I've heard that there could be widening of the roads. I've heard turn lanes. There's a lot of things. I'm very familiar with where the interest of this subdivision is going to be because our homes are directly across the street. My wife and I live there. I have 2 sons that live in the neighborhood. And we also have in-laws live in the neighborhood and also family in Autumn Woods. You start thinking about widening this road in front of these 2 subdivisions, Autumn Woods, Jamestown, Barrington, Paddleford. There's nowhere to widen. There's nowhere to go. Where are you going to widen? You going to back up into people's backyards?
Yes, it's in storage. I mean,
it's... Well, let me address that real quickly. When I'm looking at this, I'm not saying this what the board's going to decide tonight, but a lot of people don't realize sometimes where your yard is not your yard. We have 100 foot. We have 100 foot, if I read this right tonight, of right of way in there now, which is enough.
Good, excellent point. So you're going to come into our yards?
Yes, sir. It's our, the right of way because we own it. It's county property. I'm just saying there is 100 foot right of way there now. real this easement. We need to probably look at that, but that's what it looks like, which means you have room for 3 lanes in the accepting cells, and you don't go outside of that. No.
And there may be. But the point is, and I think with Mr. Burns admitting that he really doesn't have a plan. There's a lot of things that he wants to do, a lot of things that he's going to work on. A turn lane, 6 months of study on the wetlands. They haven't come up with a solution yet?
I'm not sure what we're talking about there. That's under the
He said there were 6 months of studies on the wetlands in here, or I guess it was 6 months of studies that was done to the wetlands. There's a lot of room in the back there, and I know I'm repeating what other people have said, but I'm about to jump out of my skin here.
That's phase 2.
Phase 2? That's a good question. Is there a phase 2? Is there potentially a phase 3?
We don't know.
I know we don't know that, but I'm heavily committed in this area, and I'd like to know what it's going to look like 10 years from now.
Let me say a couple things. Mitigating wetlands is hugely expensive. And for anybody that's that wants to do it, you need to to buy land and mitigate wetlands. So filling it in, for instance, this parkway that's costing them $60 million, what was it, 15 million or something, or 20 million is mitigating wetlands.
It's a cost prohibitive.
You're absolutely right. Mitigated wetlands are very, very expensive, probably more expensive, but someone also said that this is an old map. Is this an old map? Wetlands map?
Not to my knowledge. But this is the thing. We're not going to take anybody's land, to my knowledge, if we widen that road to the 100-foot line. It'll be property that we already own, that we have the ability to extend that road.
Yes, sir. And I appreciate that. You wouldn't do that unless you had to. Right now, when I come out of my neighborhood, and I know everybody along that roadway, when they come out of their neighborhood, if there's an accident on 21, if there's an accident on Goshen Road, if there's an accident anywhere in the county, we can't get out of our neighborhoods. When we come out of our neighborhoods, everything backs down on the Goshen Road to try to find a way out of the county in the mornings. So everybody's jockeying whether to go by Falkville, or whether to go by Bloomingdale, whether to go 21. You don't know. And you're going on ways, you're trying to figure out ways to get out of the county. And I know I'm repeating what other people have said, but please, before you approve this tonight, everything you've listened to tonight, everything you've heard, all these questions that aren't answered, all I ask is that you get the answers to the questions that have come through. And don't blindly approve this based on what ifs, because when I look around, one last comment, when I look around and I look at this proposed neighborhood on the board, if you look up top there, that's Paddleford Plantation. If you look right below that, that's Barrington. You look over across the train tracks, that's Georgia Plantation. You go across there, you got Autumn Woods, and down to the left, not on the map, is Jamestown. Look at the size of those lots.
Thank you.
Look at the size of the lots on the map. Why R6? Why R6? Why 200 homes? Potentially 400. Why 100 homes proposed in this, which may be less, but we don't know that. It could be more, because I heard something for the first time tonight, which was 39 acres and 186 homes. So there's a lot of questions it doesn't seem like we have the answers to. Table it, do the studies, then come back and make a good decision for Effingham County and the residents who live here. Thank you.
Yes, sir. I'd like to answer a few of them. You know, a lot of focus has been put toward me not having a plan. I mean, we've got a pretty good plan for the stage in the game we're at. A lot of times you'll see zonings be done prior to wetland finalizations and some of that. The 6-month study, it takes a while to get through the process with the Corps. You hire a wetland consultant. and they go out and flag where you believe the wetlands are, then you try to get in, you submit it to the Corps of Engineers, you wait on them to come out, you know, months later and field verify it with you, and then you wait on the jurisdictional verification to come out. And so we have that. We've passed that point. We know exactly where the Corps has confirmed the wetlands start and stop. And
Representative, go this one. Question for you.
Sir, wait, let me finish. You can come.
there's more wetlands on it than is shown on the map there.
So there's less buildable area than what we see.
There's less buildable area, and that's where I was saying the lot number is going to come back some, is some of these lots that are drawn when we originally assumed the wetlands now out on them, and so those lots will go away when we redesign it. And the Corps doesn't have, I mean, a lot of the argument about the 200 and 400 homes is all based off of if we wanted to go mitigate the wetlands and try to build some additional phases. And I think the one lady verified this one for me. She's talked to the Corps twice, and they have nothing on file of us even speaking to them about a permit, because we have not and have no intentions of even considering applying for a permit to impact the wetlands there. And so that's absolutely correct. If we're not going to impact them, we're never going to impact them. I've heard numbers $150,000 to $200,000 an acre to impact wetlands. You know, it's not feasible for residential development to go try to start developing over large swaths of wetlands, nor would the Corps of Engineers allow you to do it. When you do propose to them to impact wetlands, you have to show other viable alternatives and why you have to do it, you know, there. I mean, that'd be tough in a residential setting. The lift station, I believe Chairman mentioned, you know, we certainly, I believe that's the force main there, and we'll have to put a lift station in to pump into it. It's fully expected that's paid for by us, the developers. You know, going back to, you know, I guess my comments toward us being 18 months or so before homes are built in there and, you know, knowing where things are. I spoke to a property appraiser since the planning board meeting that's been doing appraisals in Effingham County for 20 years. And, you know, his advice was you have to look up and down Goshen Road and see the properties that are there. You go from Goshen, Georgia Plantation, down there's a trailer park on Goshen Road, back to Paddleford and Autumn Woods, and the mixture of things that are there, and they're not negatively affecting the value. His opinion was absolutely no adverse value on anything stick built we can build on the property, and we're not talking about building something at a minimum, and that's why I didn't say we were going to meet the average. I'm not saying we are not meet the average of Autumn Woods. I said we were going to set the minimum in alignment with their minimum is. And just like not many of the homes in Autumn Woods are 1,800 feet, not many, I wouldn't expect many of the homes in ours to be built right at the, you know, that starting line. I mean, you can't, as a developer, you can't set an average. You can set the minimum and then you build from there. So I've tried to align our minimum with the adjoining Autumn Woods minimum. And you talk about developers, and you know, we could change those covenants, or they wouldn't be on the next owner if we decided to sell because the property increased in value. Covenants are typically allowed to be able to be amended by the declarant or the majority owner, but we've added conditions that the square footage minimum is not, is that the developer can't, the declarant does not have the ability to amend that moving forward. So we
sold the property, the next person will come along and make it more dense, or they would have to still abide by what you put in.
By the square footage minimum.
can't change the density, that's it.
But you can change, like if you said 2,400 square feet.
And I appreciate Mr. Burns being sensitive to the community and putting these covenants in that would match the surrounding areas, but we can't in the zoning stipulate.
No, I'm asking what he's doing
Okay.
to ensure that for the future, there's nothing we can do. Well, what is he gonna do to make sure if he sells the property and these homes are as he says they are today? That's what I'd like to know.
I think, that's where we're trying to set this minimum size, and if I sold the property today, well, we'll record the covenants after, if we're approved, we'll record the covenants. And the covenants will be recorded and they will be binding on any future owner.
After you rezone.
My intention is not to sell this property in the first place, but
After you sell 85% of the property,
Sir, please don't ask questions from the audience. We can let you come to the mic in just a minute, but because it won't get recorded. We try to record everything so we have a document of what you said about. So hang on, we'll get with you there.
Quick question. There was concern about developing any of the other highlands on the property. Any intention of doing anything with those other two parcels that are high?
no, sir.
So the only thing that you're looking at is that front acreage
That's
that we're
right.
discussing. Also, this is one parcel. You have to rezone the entire parcel. Is that not correct? Somebody mentioned, why are we rezoning the entire area?
Because it's one parcel.
When we
One parcel.
You have to subdivide it.
When we verified the uplands with the Corps, we did not, because we weren't going to be able to afford to mitigate for a road to go back to those hills, we did not even go back and flag the uplands. It's all shown as wetlands on our JD.
And Ms. Wiley brought up something about the homes bordering the development. I know there's some wetlands on there, I looked at the plat. What about the ones that are in the back there?
Yep, so I've heard some off-the-record concerns about, it seems like, we placed our kiosk, our mail kiosk over against, where it could be over against their lots. That was, this was, I certainly agree, it's no problem in moving that. I see the point in that. Our road, though this is just a plan and it's not, the final design, but there's a road that gets really close to the top two lots there on the back cul-de-sac. And I believe the zoning ordinance has a 15-foot minimum treed setback. So we fully intend to meet that and, meet and exceed that with if that road's able to be moved, we certainly would place it in a different space. If it ends up going over close to that property line, it's certainly going to be out of that setback, and I certainly don't mind committing to putting a privacy fence or something along with the buffer there. If the road ends up having to be there.
Okay. All right, Jim, sir, do you have a question? Look at the mic and ask him a question.
I wouldn't ask. Mr. Burns, can I ask you one question? But the flooding concern, how would that be addressed?
Can I help with that and then along here? Georgia Soil and Water is going to have to prove that no land, was it 10%, couldn't move any faster with these plans? Is that going to be?
We've got the engineer
Yeah.
who can respond.
Answer that one. I think that's controlled.
Good afternoon, Commission. My name is Alec Metzger. I'm with EMC Engineering. I'd be glad to address that. So at this stage, we're doing rezoning and sketch plan. The next stage would be development plans. That's where we go in and do a topographic survey of the property. We understand how it drains, where it drains to, and we develop the construction plans for the subdivision. With that, the county has ordinances that require runoff to be detained. We can't increase runoff any more than it is out there today, so that's what detention ponds do. The runoff will be directed to those ponds. We may need more ponds. We haven't done that study yet. We're not that far along into the design of it.
So right there, what it means, I think, for the layman like ourselves, is that you may want 100 lots or 60 lots, but if that causes impermeable surfaces, it's going to make water leave faster than before you developed it. You'll have to reduce it to get retention.
Yes, so detention ponds, the way they work is the water flows to it, holds it, and slows down the release of it. So once that's designed, we may need more detention than shown, than is estimated. We may need less, and that'll slow the release rate. We'll try to follow existing drainage patterns on the site. We don't want to redirect everything and make it flow into Autumn Woods or flow into an adjacent subdivision. We want to be mindful of what's going on around it. If water is draining onto our property, we want to capture that and direct it in a way that it's not going to be harmful. In addition, the county requires water quality, so we're looking at ways to treat the runoff from the subdivision in ponds, in grass swales, and other methods to help improve the runoff quality.
Will that help the water table?
So one of the things that was mentioned before was water table in a well. What is important about this development is we have, I believe, reuse water available for
water
reuse and sewer. So it'll be on sanitary sewer. So there will be no septic tanks, no drain fields. There will be no impact to the water table. There will be no damage to adjacent wells or anything like
I
that.
had that noted because there was a lady who had a question about would it affect our wells and water. But it's,
that's right.
One of the things that the commission did a year ago is they spent $4 million on water and sewer over the county that allows for density. You don't need it if you're going to have basically an acre to the house. The water and sewer provides opportunity for density. And so there would be no impact on the wells because of this.
That's
correct.
correct.
Not be affected.
That's correct. Did I answer your question about drainage?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Doesn't that get signed off by Georgia Soil and Water as well?
So when we do the development plans, we have to do a study on with the runoff. It's usually called a hydrologic report. That report is submitted to the county. The county's engineers review it. It's also, we do plans that show how erosion control and sediment will be controlled on the site. All of that goes to the state and is approved by the Georgia Soil and Water Conservation Service. So a lot of approvals, a lot of people looking at plans, checking things, but that's kind of the next step in this process.
Yeah, so that may restrict the sketch plans you have here once you get to that part. I just want everybody to understand the board as well. That may restrict the plans that you have. You have to come back because it's going to be controlled. The water cannot leave faster than before the development. You can't impact the wetlands. You can't impact water quality of the streams and so forth around. And that's why our engineers will be reviewing the plans. I see none his head because they have. I don't have the expertise to know that, but they have. They know the knowledge of that. And they look at those drainages and where our drainage areas are. And another thing is for our constituents to know that we are in the process of getting my engineers to do a countywide study and get a better handle on what should have been done years ago on where our drainage issues are and why the water is not. We have a very flat county. That's kind of a challenge we have. We had the hills they have as you get over toward one along to Macon and all that. We don't have that. And with all these storms, one of the things that our engineers are telling us is a lot of trees that have gone down in ditches in the rural area, county areas. You know, the properties that we've got to locate these. So there's a lot of work we're going to be doing on that as well. But for your position, that water cannot leave. It will be certified by our engineers as well as Georgia Soil and Water. That helps clarify that particular point a little bit. All right, those gentlemen have a question for you. What are you doing?
I'm okay.
There he is. Are you okay? Okay.
Yeah.
You have a question?
It's not as much a question as Mr. Granger made a good point. My name is Chris Branson. I'm from Georgia Plantation. And widening those roads while it's not taking up neighbor's property. How many people have kids that play in the backyards? You're putting the roads closer.
We didn't hear you.
How many of those people have kids playing in those backyards? You're gonna put the roads closer to those fences where the drivers can't see the kids. And if they run off the road, they run right into the backyard. You're putting them closer to them. Okay?
We're talking about Goshen Road, not his roads inside the subdivision.
No, we're talking about Goshen Road. We're back to Goshen Road. I just wanted to make that point. I don't want to beat a dead horse, but I thought that was kind of an important point. The point that I did want to make is that I've actually lived in a development that Wilson Burns brought up. And the things that we were promised in our covenant, we didn't get. When things didn't go right for him in phase 3 out of Cypress Lakes, he sold it off and left. We didn't get the gated community that we said that we would get. We didn't get access to the lakes that he said that we would get. And we ended up having to sell our home and go find something else because it got too contentious, because somebody didn't do their homework. I just thought that needed to be said.
Hi, my name is Donald Toje, and I live in Autumn Woods. And just to tag on to what the gentleman just now said, I lived many different places in many different states and everything. And I've been involved in subdivisions where, you know, the developer basically planned to do these nice things and everything. And after it got to a point, you know, to a certain phase and everything, they changed it. And basically, it devaluated our properties. So I know you guys got a tough job. I appreciate everything that you do. Yeah, I've listened to many different comments from the concerned citizens around Goshen Road, and I'm just asking you, please do the right thing, you know, and I thank you.
We need to, if you got some new comments, because we need to get some time for the board to discuss, and we have some more questions we want to ask.
Absolutely, absolutely. My name is Larry Cheek. I'm a resident of Georgia Plantation. You know, we've heard a lot of reasons why they shouldn't build. I personally haven't heard anything compelling as to why they should build. During the Planning Commission meeting, they said that there were over 300 houses already in South Effingham for sale. Why do we need another subdivision? If we have from median house pricing to $500,000, we've got 300 houses for sale. I'd just like to know what compelling reason there is to build this. Thank you.
I have a question that hasn't been asked. I know you're trying. I'm just curious, and I know I'm not backing up to this subdivision, but I'm still back on the water table. I'm just curious, the part that you're not going to develop, who is going to maintain it? And I understand there won't be any septic, but I'm just saying that's a whole lot of Roundup and fertilizer. But I am curious as to the long-term maintenance of the part that you're not going to develop.
The engineer will address that's wetlands. I don't think you can maintain it. I don't think you do anything with it.
So it'll just be to itself?
Wetlands, I don't think you can.
Yeah, no, we intend to keep it as forested as it is today. Is the intention there. In fact, do you mind if I reply to, I had a slight personal attack in the Cypress Lakes thing, and I'd like to say that the Cypress Lakes incident was unfortunate. I bought a third phase of a neighborhood that was already fully developed. We started selling the lots to builders who were building the houses. We didn't cut and run. We went to court with phase 1 and 2 when they locked the gate on phase 3. We never made any guarantees to anyone that bought from us in phase 3, other than that we were going to do everything in our power to get them access back through the front gate, which I fully believe they should have, but the court didn't see it that way. But we spent a lot of time and money fighting that. And the other thing, one more comment, I've heard a lot about, you know, what people have said, what do we know where we went and purchased this property and spent the money on the wetlands and things. And I think what I know is what all of you know and a lot of people, and I don't know everything that you guys know, but I see you improving our fire quality, our ISO ratings. I see you, I see you doing things, the envy of the area with schools. I mean, I see things where it looks like Effingham County's growing. I see specific things going on, like booster pumps and looping of water lines that specifically adhere to Goshen Road, running of reuse and sewer that wasn't there when any of the neighborhoods that have been mentioned was there. Millions of dollars been spent there. And I guess I see, and I'm making an assumption on what I'm seeing there, that means that's where the density is going to get developed. And that's why I bought the property, because if we're going to build all 3/4 acre lots, we certainly don't need any sewer and reuse anywhere.
We need to close this public hearing, but I'm going to take one more comment.
Sorry, Patrick Murphy again. Really, my question stems to the engineer. Basically, I want to know,
If you speak to the microphone,
I'm sorry.
He can actually hear you still.
I just wanted to know, these are preliminary drawings and everything else, but the LiDAR's been around for a long time for this property. Also, their topos. So they actually have some reference to go by to show where water's going to go and where it is right now. I mean, and I just don't understand how, without preliminarily looking at these drawings and figuring out what it was, that you could come in here with a set of drawings that don't show us that, don't show us the force main, don't show us what the drain off's going to be, how much you're going to have for your ponds and whatever else. And I've done other developments, quite honestly, and this is just kind of like, you can't make any approvals at all without any of this background or any of this history and engineering. I just don't understand how they're up here presenting, cutting up a piece of land without having the facts to go to you and say, hi, guess what? We're going to have 25 houses. We take 25,000 gallons of water from this area and we're putting it in this pond that's going to be 18 by 100. It's calculations. Those are the things which, as a developer, he should be putting his money into this. If not, he shouldn't be coming in here and saying, I want an R6 zoning. If he came in here and said, I want to build some houses, hey, we wouldn't be having this discussion. Just, half acre stay the same.
Let me address that one thing, and then I think might need some bathroom breaks. So we'll come back and discuss another issue. You don't get in, when you develop it, you're not going to get into the weeds of the engineering until you know that you have a zoning that justifies you spending those monies. What you need to hear for sure is that even though they have a sketch drawing based on what they preliminary understand and preliminary engineering, they've got to go through a lot of hoops to make sure that they can build 86 or 50 or 102 lots. You don't want to get into that cost and spend $50,000 or $25,000 engineering until you know, does it meet the master plan? Does it meet the checklist of the things that we're looking for, the density and so forth? So that's what I think they're trying to say. So some of that doesn't come now. It does come later. And we understand that.
It does come in the beginning to know what you can develop if you're a developer, to this point. I mean, I've got to be honest with you.
That's on him. That's his call.
That's his call. But he can't come to you and say, I want R6 zoning for this parcel here, because he doesn't have the information to back up the fact of the drainage, and also he has no impacts at all. So he comes and you guys say, okay, let's give him R6. Well, you screw the rest of us in the back here, because guess what? The water's going to go somewhere. All right, where's it going to go?
It's not going to leave this property faster than it is one right now.
I think it's
or he can't build these lots. That's what I'm trying to share with you. He can zone R6 all the wetlands, but he can't build on it at all. No matter if it's on R12, he couldn't build on it. So there's requirements.
You can get you're up to half acre parcel that wetlands will give you. I've done this before, which is why I'm saying I know a little bit more about this than the average Joe. So the problem here is that I see this and I'm not objecting to him building homes here, don't get me wrong. I'd love to see some half-acre lots cut in here and then develop them to, $300,000, homes, gives you guys a great tax revenue, etc. That's wonderful. It also diminishes the amount of people that are on our roads. Those are the things that I'd like to see. I just object to the fact that you're going into smaller acreage. We don't have a plan that shows where the water's going to go. We don't have anything that's backing us up to give the rest of us security that, you know, he's gonna get this. And I mean, the stuff it's free. You can go online and look up the LiDAR. You can look at the topos. You don't have to spend a ton of money. You can do that by going online for free. That's all I'm gonna say.
Okay, thanks, sir. All right, we're gonna go ahead and close this public hearing, and then we're gonna take a quick break. Please stay. We'll have our discussions. We may have some questions for the engineers, our engineers. We can entertain questions during our commissioner time to discuss. So you may want a question from you or make sure you answer the questions. But give us about 5 minutes to hit a little restroom for a minute, and we'll be back. we discussed with the board and ourselves, if your attention is ready, we close the public hearing. Hopefully you've heard all the comments and you haven't missed anything. We wanted to speak tonight. This is probably one of the longest public hearings you've ever had. That's fine. We make sure we have all the discussion and we'll try to answer any questions we can have as a board. So first, I'm just going to open up to the board, having had the public hearing, see if there's questions or comments they want to make in regard to anything that was shared from any constituents tonight or from the developer. So I'll just open it up to that first, and then I'll have some comments to make as well.
I will make a few comments because these are the tough decisions that we have to make. And everybody hates change. But most of you are familiar with the Highway 21 and 30 interchange. There's one piece of undeveloped land sitting there, and that's where I was raised. I grew up with all that, and it's exploded. My father still lives there. He can't even get out of his driveway. The little white brick house there, that's where I was raised. So I understand. I remember Goshen Road was a dirt road. But I've always, and another comment was made that just why we're rezoning things. Well, everything in Effingham County was agricultural. All this was rezoned at some point so these neighborhoods could be built for us to buy, raise our kids here, and everybody wants a piece of this paradise we have. I don't know what's going to happen in 10 years. I know what's happened in the 20 years I've lived up here. It's unbelievable growth. Most people are trying to get out of this county to go work in Savannah. I hear the complaints, but if it's that bad, then this sounds terrible because it makes people mad. But you don't want to live in Savannah. You want to live out here. I don't know. That's just.
I do want to lift it up and agree with you, please.
Let's finish one of the. I'm not trying to follow.
Well, I was just going to agree with AR1 while you're looking at that. A lot of people say, well, it's not AR1, it's just AR1. And there's a point when we started doing zoning, we had no zoning in the county. That we made everything AR1, and there we built upon it. From there we built AR2s, industrial, commercial, because at one time there wasn't any zoning in the county. That's how it became an AR1. And so we have to look at it, does it fit the character, the density, does it fit the character of the master plan? And those are things that are looked at.
Yeah, that's right. How many permits have been, any idea how many permits have been issued this year, building permits? Just curious. We're talking about 102 or less homes. We've issued way more than that this year, haven't we? I mean, there's still a demand. These houses are selling. And I'm just making comments. Huh?
I think we average 40 to 50 a month.
Yeah, right. There's one other comment I was going to make.
Probably in the last 10 years, we've had over, in the city and the county together, we've probably had over 3,300 ERUs.
We're doing our best to get these roads in, but I can't. Who wants us to raise your taxes? Raise your hand. You would?
I would be willing to pay because I would rather have the roads in first before not just one neighborhood on Ocean Road, any more neighborhoods to go in. Put the infrastructure in first.
But my final statement is going to be, I've always voted for property tax rights. I believe if you own a piece of property and you want to develop it, you should, if you work within the laws and ordinance of the county, you should be able to. The only way to control a piece of property is to own it. And that's again, I'd say.
This is the commissioner's chance to kind of give you feedback.
I'm just trying to feedback. I mean, there's people, like I said, all the property that you built your house on is on farmland at one time. And there's a lot of older people that hate it.
Forest, there have been lots.
They do.
There have been lots all around.
Let me just share some of my thoughts. I don't have an actual vote, but I always like to give my thoughts and not hide behind that fact. Just chairman of the board. My daughter lives in an area that's pretty much like what this developer proposed. They have a home that's about $400,000. They live on a postage stamp lot. I can literally shake hands with the people who, I think yours is a little bigger than this, but I can literally shake hands with the people on the porch of the next lot. That's in the front of their subdivision. The back of their subdivision are half-acre lots and 1 acre lots for the bigger homes, and they work in sync with one another, and those are high-value dollar properties. I do see a trend as I travel around Georgia. There's a trend in the 25 to 35, 40 years of age that like the smaller lots. I live on a lot of land. I like woods behind me. So I live in the country. It'll be a while before it has the density, but it's probably coming. Hopefully my kids will have to deal with that. But there's a lot of young people that like to have that size house, and that's a market that we have. It's out there. We did put the water and sewer lines, or I would assume that's why the board did it, because we need the density. Things that we've done this past year in refinancing the water debt, we've done since the water and sewer. We used to lose money up until about 3 years ago, and we pretty much have got that reversed through some refinancing and a lot of projects and growth. But it's still not, we're still not out of the woods on this. We have millions of dollars worth of debt. So the density helps with the water and sewer. The density helps with property values if it's done correctly, and it brings property values that comes from raising taxes on other people. When I was managing working in the city of Lincoln, consulting with them, people talked about they wanted more commercial. We contacted restaurants. They said, we're not coming until you get more rooftops. And so that's all connected. So we have this job of trying to look at the quality growth of industry. We just celebrated the industry today and cut the ribbon on $1 million million square feet. So we're excited about that. So we're creating 70 to 100 new jobs. But we have the job of trying to balance industry with commercial, with residential, with density that brings the property values that we're looking for as a county overall. So that brings transportation issues that we are trying to get ahead of, and we are going to get out ahead of those. I'm going to say in my position that we can't put that on the developer if we're going to be a growing community, and we are. We've got to get out ahead of those transportation issues, and we are going to do that, and we are doing that. Water and sewer, we've already probably accomplished half of what we established 3 years ago as we started doing our planning. We went on retreat this past year, but we looked at these water and sewer issues. But your water pressure, this 100 or 80 or 50, whatever it ends up being, is not, you're going to have better water pressure a year from now than you do right now, whether they come in and go or not, because we are addressing that issue. We're also looking at water tanks because we want to have other opportunities as well. But water pressure became the first issue, so the booster stations coming first. Then we'll look at the tank because if the Savannah went down, or the booster station went down, or whatever, we forget the water. But if you've got some storage, we'll have some water. Because we're concerned that if all the water is coming from Savannah on the south end, it's a big concern that I have, and that was shut down for a busted, was a 36 line. It got busted and was shut down for 2 or 3 days. We could not put out a fire in the South Effingham area. So we're looking at putting a tank or two in strategic locations that will also help pressure, but more than that, it'll give us volume so that we can have water for the 24 or 48 hours should that go down. So we're addressing those infrastructure issues and needs. One of the comments, make sure we understand, the developers cannot put any of their costs for tie-ins into our citizens. That has to be paid for by the developer. As far as where the water will go, when they finish building it, one comment that I heard someone make from the board, like this situation, is the water will go where it goes today. In other words, that means 10 years from now or 20 years from now, that water cannot go any place different. If they build 20 houses or 40 houses, the engineering, the soil and water conservation, the ordinances we have in place, all there to protect that water goes where it goes today. And so that's part of the process they have to do, is finalize that information to the engineers. Our engineers who do not work or connected or completely independent, they report to us, will certify that water goes where it goes today and no different. So it wouldn't affect your investment. So my personal feeling is that density done right is not a bad thing. I've always advocated in the past some decisions for the rights of the property owners as long as it fits within the master plan. I saw that 2 of the 3 of the planning board believe that this fit within the master plan.
But
When
yet
I look
they
at what,
did not.
when I look at what's all on Goshen Road, I don't believe personally that there would be any hurt to value to properties on that road. With this development.
You don't live there.
Well, I'm just sharing.
Yeah, and then the road, and then
We can't shout for the audience, okay? We take plenty of time to listen, I'll get a couple people rebuttal. I'm just sharing what we understand. You raised concern about congestion, we're taking care of that. Water, sewer quality, we're taking care of that. Water pressure, we're addressing that. Where the water goes, that's going to be addressed. It's going to go where it goes today. So I'm going to look down and see what else you raised. The school board, we meet with the school board, and we met with Randy. He's met with all the cities and counties. They are looking at their plan. They've got a good plan. If we want to grow, we've got to address these school issues. The answer is not close up and don't let anybody else come to our community. But in my opinion, the question is do it well and provide the schools that we need. But anyway, I'm going to see if the other board members have some comments they'd like to make.
I got one I want to make. On my time. All our zonings have restrictions on them, or you've got to pass restrictions on each planning thing, the R1, the AR1, R2. When we came over this R6, whether that was a good decision, I don't know, but it's too late now. But what I'm saying, anybody that comes for any of those zoning, if they pass the restrictions that the county has on them, it's hard to turn down. And this R6, this fellow, he has passed all the restrictions and all that we require for the zoning of R6. And I don't help y'all, but I'm just telling you that. All our zoning has got certain stipulations on it.
Commission, we tried not to interrupt you while you were talking. So
And he's passed all these stipulations, so it's really hard for us to turn him down because we made the R6 years ago and that was the stipulations on it. And just like you're going to, if you got an R2, and you know, we put the stipulations on there, and any of you come up here and want to zone something, and if you pass that stipulation that we request, that we require, then we have to more or less give you that, or we get sued. I'm just telling you,
Can I go to the podium and ask a question?
it's closed by the next question. Make sure that we answer your questions.
Okay. Thank you. It's more of a statement than a question. This sounds like it's a done deal. I want you, the only thing is, this is more of a statement. Right across the railroad tracks, there's a triangle that there's a church currently there that is a modular building. Nice church, but there was a for sale sign out in front of it for a while. It seems to be gone now. I don't know if it's sold or not. But once, assuming this gets approved for an R6, once that's done, there's nothing to stop because we've set a precedent. There's nothing to stop someone, whoever owns that property, whoever buys that property, or whoever owns it now. It's easy for a church to relocate that's in a modular home, in a modular building. That would be a prime piece of property for someone to buy if it hasn't already been, and be right back here with another subdivision that we're looking at right across the street from us again, right in the midst of all this.
Anywhere along Goshen Road.
It could, and that's why this density issue, it exacerbates when you look at the triangle right next to it that could be going on right now that we don't even know about. That's all I have to say.
Public hearing is closed. Unless you got a specific question, we don't understand.
I do. I have a question for the board.
I think the microphone gives you.
Thank you very much, sir. My name is Michael DeWild, and I live in Jamestown. And my question for the board is this. What is the amount of time for the ambulance service to leave up there off Goshen to get to your house in Jamestown? What is an appropriate amount of time? Because when my wife had her heart attack, 20 minutes was a lifetime.
And now you want to put more traffic on Goshen, right? And then let's look at the building. When he's...
You have a question, sir?
Yes, I do. So what's the time frame? Well, what's an appropriate amount of time? Because when he puts his trucks on the road to start the construction...
The national average for EMS time is 12 minutes. And I believe that we beat that time from Goshen to Jamestown. Now, I can verify that through the things, but I can't answer that.
Well, what I'm trying to sit here and say, sir, and ask the question...
Yes, sir, listen, you asked a question. We have a great EMS, that's the average time. Anything 12 minutes or more is considered...
Outstanding. And EMS did a great job. My wife is alive today. But my question here is this, right? When we look at the traffic, right? We're looking at 3.7 miles of road. And it's taken 30 minutes to 45 minutes to get off that road from Jamestown. If I go north to 21. In the morning. I mean, you know, anytime between 5:30 to 9.
Yeah,
you know?
I travel that road every day of my life.
Really?
And unless something's happening on 21, that never takes me. I get the.
Does anybody else have a problem getting on?
No.
Okay. So
21 is backed up. It backs up everybody. It's a mile long. And it could be an hour getting on it. It's a problem. And on normal days, and I've been looking at it, especially since this came up. Because I lived over there too. That's why I lived in your district. So what I do tonight, what I vote on tonight, affects me and my family and my children. I've been looking at it for the last 2 weeks. There's never been more than 7 cars waiting to get from Goshen to Hodgeport.
Oh, no way.
There's questions.
From 6:45 in the morning to 7:30 in the morning. Yeah, for 2 weeks, not 1 week.
It's the holiday.
People work out the week before that.
Well, that's the
Now, I want to leave. I just want to leave with this. I understand what y'all are doing. I appreciate what y'all are doing. But if by some reason or another that this resolution gets passed, you're not doing the good of the people. All right, you're not. Listen to the people, not the bank book. Thank you.
Well, I'm just, once again, reiterating my thoughts is that we don't run for these positions because we want this position. I ran because I wanted to make Effingham County better because I was here. That's how every board member feels their people. So we listen to a lot of arguments. We listen from developers. We listen from constituents in our neighborhoods and around the corners and all. And we have to do what we believe is best for the entire county. Now, I can't say how the board will vote tonight, but I can say they're going to vote for what they believe is best for the entire county as a whole. We say we're for development, but we want development somewhere else. Well, development somewhere else squashes the arguments I heard tonight about the schools. Because, hang on, if you build 300 homes in another area, you still got to educate them whether they're built in this area or not. So these are all issues that I've listened to, I've heard, that I believe this board is actively addressing, and we're going to continue to make this county the best place to live. I want to support property owners, I want to support you when you want to do something on your property, but the density, the only thing I've heard tonight is it's not consistent with the master plan, but it really is. What we've done with the water and sewer, the density we're looking for. It's not going to overload our public facilities. We built huge, I think it's a 16-inch line along that road for water that's available. We have to have density to get the value out of that line that was put there. We've got the sewer that's there. It's not spot zoning when you look and see what's in that area and what's going on, property values. The only thing that I feel for you is that you don't want it. That's the only thing that I see.
I would like roads first. That's not just Goshen roads. That's roads in the whole south end should be finished before anything else is approved and rezoned. Just table it until you get a road in. I understand you have sewer, you have water. Yes, that's all great and dandy. But without the roads, it does nothing.
Well, I think this, and I hear you. one more comment, and I see if this board has, and we'll see if there's a motion on the table. This 80 homes or 100 homes is not going to impact it like it would to...
186.
It's not going to be 106, I can answer that. But to Mr. Granger, you know, he's right, there may be other density that comes down the road, but this particular subdivision is not going to impact Goshen Road based on our observation of traveling the road, looking. We don't just turn around and get this project. I'm just telling you what in your discussion.
Can I ask one question?
Hang on a second.
This is a question that has been asked.
Hang on a second.
That's
Okay. Does anybody in the board have a question for the developer or anything that we need to talk about or zoning or staff or anything? Okay. I'll entertain one question, but no comments as far as the statement.
Okay, one question. How many of you guys up here know House of Representative Barnes? No. So I got a question. And does he have anything to do with this development?
Yeah.
Yes, it does.
Can you answer that?
His son.
Can you answer that?
That's not our business.
Do you know him though? That's my question to you guys. Do you know him? What?
That's not pertinent to this thing tonight.
I think it is. I think it is. I think it's very pertinent.
I want to say one statement, and then we're going to see the comments of board. There was a subdivision you mentioned, Belmont Land, had nothing to do with Barnes or Ron's or any name, and I spoke up to that density as well. So this is not an issue about knowing someone, sir, and I don't appreciate that thought. That said, the public hearing has been closed. I'm going to go to
Good question. Good question.
We're done with questions. We pretty well covered the questions, I think, at this point.
He didn't cover it.
I received a lot of feedback from this. I received a lot of emails and phone calls. And when you wouldn't believe it or not, I took every one of them seriously. That's why I paid attention to the road every day that I travel. I don't travel half of that road. I travel entirely with it every single day of my life. Because I have a business here in Effingham County, and I run it like you guys do. That's my daily life. So, you know, I'll go to the things that was addressed in those letters because it was important to me, whether you want to believe it or not. It is. I know you're passionate about this. I live in the same area. I moved to Effingham County for a reason. In 2002, I moved here to go to church. Now I moved here because it was good for my family, and I didn't like the Savannah schools. You know? But on the same token, and now I'm fortunate enough to live in a big house in a nice neighborhood. And some of those people around me, can I finish, please? Some of those people have plenty of time. Some of those people around me may not can live in a neighborhood like I live in, but their kids deserve to go to the same school my kids go to. And there's nothing wrong with that. They have that right. They don't have to live in a $500,000 home because the school my kids go to. And it's our job to get that part right. And the school. I think Ms. Alford said earlier, it's not just the school boards everything, and it's just the truth. We've got to work hard to do the right thing in those areas. And that doesn't mean we just kick everybody else out because they can't build a $500,000 home. We've got to think about this thing. One of the things that was brought up to me was the planning board. They went for it. I called Mr. Zipper. Mr. Zipper is the District 2 on the planning board. He wasn't there that day, and I wanted his opinion on that before I even went down the trail to make a decision on anything or even heard from you guys tonight. I wanted to get all the facts that I could. He said verbatim, and I asked him, could I say that? I repeat his comments, and he said yes. He would have voted for it. He said, I have no problem with it, Roger. I don't know what happened. It's very intimidating for everybody. And I can see why. I'm intimidated. I don't want to make anybody mad at me or hurt feelings. It's not what this is about. But I know you don't believe that. But I didn't sign up to do this just so I could be a politician. I've never been a politician in my life. I signed up here. I think it's right every time. It's all I can do every day. That's all any of us can do every day. And I know that sign up because you look at somebody in this position and you think, hey, they're just in it for the money or whatever. It's not true. There's, believe what you want. Until you get on the side, and been on that side, you just don't know. You really don't. But I know the passion about it. I get it. You know, we got to take advantage of some of the taxpayer money we've already spent on this infrastructure. I'm speaking about water and sewer. And we've got jobs to do with this traffic. It's not going to go away. This isn't going to be a big impact on the lives. But it's going to get bigger, and we do have to do better. And we're working on that. And our biggest issues are not Goshen. Our biggest issues are Hodgeville and these veins trying to get out of here. If I got to make a doctor's appointment, I don't even want to do it in Savannah unless it's going to be at 11 o'clock because it takes me forever to get out. And we're all dealing with the same stuff. But it's not like we're not doing it. We are doing stuff all the time. We're hiring the right people on staff that know that plan. Because I don't have all the So we're hiring the right people and getting on board, the right engineers, so we can get out of this county. And on the other side of that, I grew up in a town with 6,000 people. And today, that same town is 6,000 people. They have nowhere for anybody to go to work. The only thing you can hope to do when you're growing up there is to leave. And I'd love to see Effingham County do something different, where my kids could grow up here and stay here and work here. And we're on the right track for that. It might not be perfect because it's hard to do and hard to navigate, but it's going to be different than where I grew up. And I pray that my kids can grow up here and work here, and school here, and do everything that I couldn't. And I had to leave to even get a good education. You know, there's just nothing there. And the county just stifled everything. We got guys who want to do something different. And us to have a place for our kids. And if we're going to have a place for our kids to work, where are they going to live? They can't get out of school and go buy a house like you guys have. You just can't. They got to live somewhere. And we've got to provide for that in some way. It's not going to be great for everybody.
Screw up paradise to do it.
It is a paradise, but it can't be just ours. You know? It's got to be other things. That's another thing about the veteran community. You know, Ms. Kimberly brought up some great things about libraries and green space. I like for us as a board to start looking stronger at that, especially in the south of the county. That's great feedback. That's the kind of stuff we need. So we maybe can get that into some plans. We need more green space. We might need a library in the county. And if we can't go anywhere, at least we have some place to go. There's nothing there. It's really not. It's school. We need to establish more guidelines. And there's lots of things we need to do. But, you know, and a lot of people think this is a predetermined decision. It's not. But if there's not a legal reason to deny a builder or developer to do what they're supposed to do, you're opening yourself up to a lawsuit. Just because we're not allowing you to do it. I don't know why he bought the property before he did this. I could only assume that he would think, hey, we're building houses next to houses. Why would he think he could do it? Why would he? I just want to say I understand. I'm there to. I wish I had a one-size-fits-all answer for everything.
Thank you. Any other comments from the board? I'm going to entertain a motion and see what we can say about that.
Alternative.
Okay, the two alternatives, alternative one to deny the request as recommended by the planning board, and the other is approve the request to rezone R6 with stipulation, that's alternative 2, and there are 3 stipulations listed with that. Do I have a motion?
Could I add another stipulation? Mr. Burns, could we add that there would be a privacy fence if that road gets along the backside to protect those homeowners? Could we add, is that doable?
Is that something we could put on the developers? Because the numbers are set by R6.
You're right, it's not allowed, it's not in the ordinance, you can't require it. If he wants to do that, it's up to him.
I'll commit to doing it.
provide, you know, once we provide that, probably the sketch plan, might be helpful. So we can leave this and goes around. So the motion is just for alternative two?
Make a motion to approve alternative two.
Have a motion from Mr. Burdette for alternative two. Do you have a second? Second by Mr. Looper. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. And it carries. We have a second reading, consideration to approve the second reading application by Wilson Barnes of Blanford, LLC.
Goodbye, Effingham. It's all old boy politics.
The call is just a minute.
I'll be in next year.
So it's second reading, consideration to approve the second reading of an application by Wilson Barnes of Blanford Homes LLC to rezone 136.26 acres located at 1147 Gresham Road from AR 1 to R6 for development of a subdivision consisting of approximately 102 lots, map number 51, parcel 22 in the second district. Do you have a motion?
I think the alternatives are different on this, but it wasn't replaced from the current one. So alternatives.
This should be just for the second reading.
No, it's stipulation. There's only two alternatives.
Second reading? Oh, I'd like to make a motion to approve the second reading.
Okay, motion by Mr. Burdette to approve the second reading. Do I have a second?
Second.
For Mr. Deloach?
Yep.
Second by Mr. Deloach. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. The second reading is approved. Now, I'm going to the sketch plan. The planning board recommends approving an application by Wilson Burns, Blanford Homes LLC for a sketch plan for 102 lots developed on Ocean Road, map number 451, parcel 22 in the second district. Now, do we need to, someone share a little bit about the sketch plans? I'm not looking at it. It's not here tonight.
You gotta forgive me, our zoning.
Is this something to be worth tabling till she gets back?
I'll say the sketch plan was approved by the planning commission. And I can. And they approved staff's recommendations. Some of them are similar to those on the actual rezoning, as in they must comply with the R6 zoning district ordinance. Site development plat must comply with the Effingham County Water Resources Protection Ordinance and Stormwater Management Ordinance. And the plat must be approved by the zoning administrator when it's a formal plat.
Yeah, there's nothing to do.
Oh, and all wetland impacts must be permitted by Corps of Engineers.
All the appropriate engineering permits have got to be. So alternative one is to approve the sketch plan with the stipulations recommended by the planning board and staff recommendations. Do you have a motion?
Make a motion to approve alternative one.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Burdette, second by Mr. Roper. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. And that carries. And that's for the public hearing item tonight. I apologize to those who are here for the other public hearings, for the link of the last one. Public hearing number one, planning board recommends approving the application by Doug Gilbert to rezone 45.4 acres located at 1300 US Highway 80 from R4 to I1, light industrial, to allow for a surface mine map on the 370 parcel 26 in the first district.
The request for zoning is a requirement under Appendix C, Article 3. It basically requires excavation activity that requires state mining permit to be located in I-1 zoning district. This surface mining operation is expected to last for approximately 5 years. The Effingham County Comp Plan describes Highway 80 as an area of secondary regional connector. And the mine pit will consist of 14.48 acres, and there will be 31.36 acres of undisturbed wetlands, and the 4.48 will then remain R4. The staff recommended approval with the following stipulations. I'm sorry, there was the proposed surface mine will be adjacent to existing mining pit. That the lot meets the requirements of the I-1 zoning district, that it meets the requirements of excavation, mining, ponds, fills of land, and state jurisdictional waters and wetlands. Site development plan comply with the Effingham County Water Resources Protection Ordinance and Stormwater Management and Local Design Management. All wetland impacts are permitted by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. The subdivision plat must be approved by the zoning office and the health department, and the applicant shall notify the zoning administrator at the time of final reclamation of the borrow pit and closeout of this mining operation, and upon the determination of DNR that the affected lands have been reclaimed in an acceptable manner. A minor recombination of the subdivision path shall be submitted to the county, and the zoning of the property shall revert back to R4 at that time. The planning board recommended approval with the same stipulations. So staff recommends alternative 1, which is the approval request to rezone the 45.85 acres of the 50.3 acre R4 to I-1 light industrial for a surface mine with the stipulations recommended by the planning.
Okay, we'll open the public hearing. Anyone speaking for this tonight?
Mr. Chairman, my name is Doug Morgan. I'm here on behalf of the applicant, Mr. Galbraith, to answer any questions, but add to what Mr. Callan said. We're just looking to expand an existing pond on the property. It's approximately 3 acres, and we'll expand it in the field area only. The wetlands on the plat that you have, the exhibit, have been delineated by Resource Land Consultants, and there will be no impact to the wetlands. And all of these activities will be designed, permitted, and inspected and approved by the Surface Mining Unit through EPD in Atlanta.
Absolutely, thanks, sir. Anyone else speaking for tonight? Anyone here tonight speaking against this rezoning? Seeing that, when I close the public hearing, any questions or discussion on the board? Do I have a motion?
Make a motion to approve alternative 1 with the planning board staff recommendations.
Motion by Mr. Floyd, second Mr. Kiefer to approve alternative 1 with planning board staff recommendations. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed no. And carries. Second reading, consideration to approve the second reading of the application by Doug Gilbert to rezone 45.84 acres located at 3300 US Highway 80 from R4 to I-1 light industrial to allow for surface mining map number 370, parcel number 26 in the first district. A motion to approve the second reading?
Make a motion to approve the second reading.
Second. Motion by Mr. Floyd, second by Mr. Deloach to approve the second reading. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed no. And carries.
Thank you.
Third item of the public hearing, the planning board recommends approving an application by Village Park Homes LLC for a variance use to waive the requirement to install reused water lines inside Creekside subdivision zone PB located on North Sea Conway Road, map number 416, parcel number 46 and 47 in the second district. Public hearing on this. Real briefly, it's nowhere near our.
Correct. And so staff had originally recommended denial because we were not able to get a copy of an agreement between Village Park Homes that they claimed they had with the county on the reuse lines. Planning board recommended approving the variance because it's more than 1,000 feet from the property. In actuality, it is a little over a mile. And so, and because of the direction that it's going, there isn't a lot of developable property out there, and it's very close to the Chatham County line outside of our service area anyway.
Yeah, for it is, I'm pretty adamant about making people tie-ins or reuses, we need to put it somewhere, but it's not good business sense, it's just not good business sense. And we go up, and we go the other direction with our lines and where they're going. To come down a mile would cost us millions of dollars, and I don't see the reason to put that hardship on the developer when they not have it there for 30 years or longer. So, anyway, anyone speaking for this, you want?
Yeah, just very briefly, Hal Kraft with Hussey Gay Bell. I'm here representing Village Park. We were the engineers for the project. You took all my bullet points, so I don't know if there's anything else to add. You know, we don't foresee extending the line down that far for such a limited use. So glad to answer any questions if you have any engineering questions.
Yeah, just clarifying, because I don't get all that. It is okay. All right, thanks, sir. Anyone speaking against this variance tonight? Seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing and entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve alternative 2. Oh, I'm sorry. Make a motion to approve alternative 1.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Burdette to approve alternative 1, second by Mr. Deloitte. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. Thank you. Second reading, consideration to approve the second reading of an application by Village Park Homes LLC for a variance used to waive the requirements to install reuse water lines inside Creekside subdivision zone, PD located on BOC Conway Road, map number 436, parcel 46 and 47 in the second district. Motion approved, second reading.
Make a motion to approve the second reading.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Burdette, second by Mr. Deloach, to approve second reading. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, no. And it carries. And the last item, the public hearing, the planning board recommends approving an application by James and Sherry Zitrower for a conditional use to operate a real business for a coffee roasting facility and wholesale business located at 523 Stillwell Road, map number 409, parcel number 28 in the 4th district.
Hi.
And before we
Yes.
do that, is there anything from staff?
Yeah, they actually gave me some information on this. This is actually a request for a rural business conditional use. There's a list of criteria for this, which is listed in your packet. And one of them shall be limited to no more than 1,000 square feet if in a structure and 1,000 square feet of land is outside the structure. Property on which the rural business approach must have frontage on a public road. Staff reviewed and recommended approval with the following stipulations: that it meets these requirements. Site development plans comply with the Effingham County Water and Resources Protection. And again, all wetland impacts were permitted by the Corps of Engineers. These folks are going to be running a coffee roasting business. They provided a video. If you, it's what, 30, 40 minutes?
30 seconds.
We may need a sample.
Well, we have samples. He's supposed to be letting you smell the coffee.
Yeah.
So our daughter-in-law is from Honduras. We fell in love with Honduras coffee. As we traveled through Honduras, we got to go through coffee plantations and fields and see the flowers, the bushes. It's how they dry your coffee beans. It makes the best coffee in the world. And so we kept bringing it back, decided we're going to figure out how to do it. And now we buy our coffee 150-pound bags. We have it go to an importer, and we roast coffee beans, and it's grown from roasting 8 ounces at a time to we just bought our second roaster. We now have our Georgia agricultural retail license, so we're now selling in paddles and other wholesale places and retail cafes. And we're happy to be here in Effingham. You're welcome to come get coffee. You probably should have got some all the way because I'm just down the street from you.
I see Tim try to hang on to that coffee.
Yeah, I'm like, he has to share that.
He said he might share it, but.
I should have brought an AirPod. Oh my gosh.
Thank you so much. Just real quick, is anyone here speaking against this real business? I don't see one, so I'm going to close the public hearing. I'm going to take a motion.
Make a motion to approve staff recommendation.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Loco, second Mr. Keeper to approve staff recommendations. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed no. And it carries. I'll note that that's all numbered. Okay.
Yeah.
And then we have a motion to approve second reading.
Make a motion to approve second reading.
Let me read all this. Clerk, can you read all this again? The second reading, Bible study?
I'm sorry. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get through. Second reading, consideration to approve the second reading of an application by James and Sherry Zippauer for conditional use to operate a rural business for a coffee roasting facility and wholesale business located at 523 Stillwell Road, map number 409, parcel number 28 in the 4th district. Once again, do I have a motion to approve second reading?
Make a motion to approve second reading.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Lopez, second by Mr. Deloach, to approve the second reading. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed no. And it carries. All right. Do we have any staff reports this evening?
Yes, briefly, I just wanted to give, for the record, a report on the purchase of the bank building for the new administration complex. We entered into a contract to purchase the building for $1.5 million back in July.
We have been on the business.
Yep,
Yeah.
and he wants to do
We
that.
have not business. We need to go back to number 14.
Oh, I'm sorry, this is yes.
Number 16.
The 15th, let's see. No, let's see.
16. Number 16.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, item number 16, we delayed to have executive session. It was consideration to approve amendment number 1 to the agreement of the purchase and sale of real estate by between Renaissance Bank and the Board of Commissioners of Effingham County. And to that amendment 1, I believe our manager wants to add.
To change the leasing schedule and rates. Currently, they are at nothing for the first year for the bank, for that first floor section of the bank building. $7 a square foot for year 2 and $7 a square foot for year 3. I'm recommending an amendment to make it nothing for year 1 and year 2, but $14 a square foot for year 3, which according to the appraisal is the current market rate.
Okay, so it'd be a motion for alternative 1 with the addition to that amendment to include amending the lease rate to 0 in the first year, 0 in the second year, 14 in the third year. Do you have a motion to approve?
Make a motion to approve. Second.
Motion by Mr. Deloach, second by Mr. Keeper to approve. As I just stated, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed no. And that carries. Now we go to staff report. Am I correct?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Okay, so the bank building went under contract with the county with a 90-day due diligence. We extended it to July 11th. The appraisal report came out positive for the county for value in excess of our purchase price. The building itself, the square footage is 20,000, a little over 20,000 square feet, of which 16,000 square feet is currently finished. And it's roughly 4.34 acres, and 1.6 of those acres are vacant lot that could provide for future expansion. Based on those numbers, if you were to fully value the finished square feet, we would be paying $73. And if you were to give no value to the unfinished square feet, it does have an elevator up there and fire stairs, so it's a relatively easy upfit.
Now you're saying the 4 acres, 4 point something acres, that includes the side lot as well?
Correct.
Okay, I was thinking it was more. thought it was more space, and I thought it was like that side lot was 2.75 acres by itself.
I have the lot, and I actually have the appraisal here. Just gotta find it. Just give me a sec. Okay. All right, so,
Isn't it in
where's the
three
square
different
footage of
tracts?
this?
Because I think part of that building, we noticed on the plat, it showed the new addition as one parcel and the other addition. The first addition is a parcel, and I think the other is a parcel.
Yeah, it's,
They should have recombined them to build, because they cross property
It
lines.
should have combined, yeah.
it's not a separate lot, and that's where the trick is. So there are two lots. One of them is the original bank building, which is 1.63 acres. And then the second is the new building, which was going to be their operations building and the vacant, the undeveloped lot, and that is 2.71 acres for a total of 4.34 acres.
So the side lot is with the new addition plus the vacant lot, and that's
Correct.
2.7 together.
And keep in mind that the space between the building supply and the new building, half of that's two lots, and so we're getting one of those lots.
Okay.
There's another lot that belongs to somebody.
That's closer to the building supply. If you were to apply, let's say, a half a value to that, it's $83 per square foot. To the upstairs, 4,000 unfinished square feet, which is based on all the comparables that we can come up with, which is substantially lower than what we're looking at. And it's pretty high quality space on finishes in the space. So all ADA accessible. Even the unfinished upstairs at this point, because of the elevator access, is ADA accessible. The departments we are looking at, and we're in the process of doing a program study, includes the administration, the clerk, the Board of Commissioners office, Board of Commissioners meeting room. We will have a replacement large conference room, finance, purchasing, human resources, and development services. That'll be your phase one. We were looking at moving IT over, but with the requirements for generators, having the banks using our resources in the building while they rent it is going to be a little bit complicated. So we're thinking about doing that upfit for all of our backup generators for our servers and so on and so forth after the bank vacates the property. And then once the bank vacates the property, I'm sorry, go ahead.
So I think that's a good idea to do it in phases, so we'll see how far, how much room that takes, and then assess from there.
Yeah,
Having a master plan, but then do it in phases so you can tweak it.
So the phase one would include everything that we got here plus the development.
Except for IT.
Except IT, yes.
Plus development services.
Plus development, okay.
Plus you don't spend that money till you need
Okay.
And so I will still have to work out some final details of the lease terms, but that's part of the contract with the chairman can sign.
Well, I'm really excited about it. I tell you, I think if we were to build a 20,000 square foot building, we would spend $3 to $4 million acquiring the property, engineering, the designing, and the construction. And we had it in our long range plan, approximately $4 plus $3.4 million. And to do that for 1.5, I know there's going to be some dollars spent in remodeling and retrofitting it for us. But wow, what a huge saving for our county. This is pretty exciting. And we'll finally have ADA accessible, and we won't have to have little heaters, keep us warm in the winter, and people freezing during the summer, and so it's gonna be good.
And the
it's
meeting
gonna be
floor is
safe.
level, so.
Yeah. It's exciting times, great opportunity, and we're taking something that could have been a vacant building and using it in a very productive way, so that's exciting as well. Okay. Any reports?
That's all I have.
Anything from our clerk?
Just wanted to mention, I have several things that I will put in a box for your review, but I'd just like to mention EOM is spearheading a cleanup. Let me pull that back up. So it's required under our MS4 to have cleanups at various times during the year. So there will be a cleanup held on December 14th from 9 to 12, and it's going to encompass 3 locations. It's going to be behind the Dollar General on Old Augusta Road, and Abercorn Landing, and Tommy Long Landing. So there'll be cleanups in those areas on December 14th from 9 to 12, and I know they're looking for any participation in that.
Is Atlantic Wastewood helping us well getting containers?
Eric?
Should be. I would hope
No, sir. EOM will pick up any trash that's picked up on that Saturday. We'll haul it and get and dispose of it
I got you.
with our crews.
So it's just volunteers will put it in bags and let it.
And it'll make its way to the transfer. I guess.
What you're talking about, Phil, is what's in the contract. Yeah,
Sorry.
but this is under the
This
MS4, but that's something that you all should probably think about, which locations you want to do that, because we haven't done it at all.
Yeah.
Anything else, Ms. Stephanie?
No, sir, everything else will go in your box.
Anything from our other staff tonight?
Be good to get a little, some kind of flyer totally.
We got it.
Okay.
Yeah, we got it.
Santa Claus.
I did want to mention one of those is a stream cleanup. So volunteers are going to have an opportunity to bring out their kayaks, canoes, small boats, and clean up the Ebenezer Creek.
Is that going to deal with the trees that came over in the storm and all that kind of stuff too?
We won't be doing tree removal or anything. This is volunteers getting some floating trash and that sort of thing.
I tried to, about a year ago, tried to do that little, and I got out 6 times and finally gave up. Canoe back upstream. It used to be such a great little trip down there, but not right now. We do need to look at how we can get some support.
Have a chainsaw you can borrow.
Well, we need to state give some support. That's a historic area. All right, I'll take around the board. Anybody on this side with anything?
I don't have anything.
Anybody on this side of the board? All right, I see no other comments. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Deloach, second by Mr. Keeper to adjourn this meeting. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Any carries.
Missed out.